Hello, everybody, and welcome to Concerned Students of Ontario. I am here today with Ms. Brown and a special guest who has been working in the medical industry as a doula for many years. And she's here today to share her story. She's been very outspoken about the medical industry and all the things, all the problems that have been going on there. And so welcome. Why don't you do a quick introduction of yourself and we'll get started.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Nidhi Seth. I am a birth and postpartum doula in Toronto and much of the GTA. I am also a herbalist, and I've been working with mothers and babies for the last 5 years, but I've been involved in the medical industry, I guess, for the last 14 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so Nadisa, tell us a bit about what is a doula?
So a doula is a mother labor and support coach, depending on if you decide to go in birth work or postpartum. The birth part is supporting her through labor, coaching on, what she might anticipate, how to coping techniques, positions to do, and depending on, who your doula is and what she specializes in, will determine what kind of care you're going to get. So for me, my entire work is set up on the ancestral birth wisdom, getting back into honing your most ultimate primitive and natural instincts, working as much as the home birth realm as I can. Pretty much that's the only realm I'm working in, really. Mm-hmm. And for postpartum, it's supporting the mother so she can support her baby and just helping her with the day-to-day as she transitions from maiden to mother. And I think it's just such an important time in life where there is so much sacredness involved, but somehow in these last 200 years, that has really been butchered and taken out of the new modern world, especially in this part of the world. We don't have rituals. We don't have sacred rites of passages the way we used to. Even men are not being led by proper other men in what their rites of passages are when they become a father. So my goal is to bring as much of that back as possible. And in doing that, really exposing the medical system and the abuse that is happening onto many, many women in Ontario and babies. And if you're planning on having a baby, you should be listening and you should be thinking about this. Even if you're a woman, if you're a student, if you're a faculty member, this impacts you because as long as you have a daughter, sister, mother, you have a womb, it affects you.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said earlier when we were talking, this is something that is part of life for everyone. It is the start of life. Mm-hmm. It's kind of inevitable if you're living, you've had a part in it.
Totally.
I'm going to give a little bit of context because I think that you are a guest that probably no one saw coming as being on our podcast, our interview series. But you were recently censored on Instagram, had your account deleted. And that's not your first experience with censorship, is it?
Oh, for sure not.
Exactly. So free speech is something that is totally under attack right now and over the past couple of years. And you've been fantastic. Like Josie and I follow your account, and the one that was just deleted, but now you've got another one up. And you just talk about everything without you don't hold back, and it's fantastic. And I wish more people were like that. So that is why you're here today, to encourage people to speak out about the things that they believe in and be passionate, live out exactly what they believe. Not be afraid of what's going to happen.
Totally. And a lot of what we're afraid of, it's just been constructed in our mind. Oh, this will happen. It's all these scenarios that we've made, which actually are completely false because you're so busy worried about what's about to happen. You're not really living for what you can do now. And, I was never taught how to speak out for myself. Like you go through so much indoctrination in school that you're told to be a good little soldier, and girls don't speak out. And girls don't do this. And you become so submissive, even in your culture, like coming from an Indian culture, you're very submissive into a certain belief system about who you are. So then you're going from one submissive culture to the next submissive institution of school. And then you're going from there into medical school, and medical school into doula world, and doula world goes into, it's just like it's everywhere. The submission is real. And because they've done such a great job at doing it, by the time you get into your 20s and 30s, you don't even have any backbone because you haven't done a good enough job putting boundaries for yourself. And because you don't have proper guidance, like the wisdom is being lost from our ancestors. Your grandmother might not be as wise as her grandmother was, and your mother might not be as wise as her great grandmother was, right? And so these are very important things in life, which is if you're not being guided and navigated in the right way, or in the way that is going to be for your truest self, it's going to be a pretty hard life, because you're going to constantly be fighting that part of you that so wants to be deeply passionate about something, so deeply wants to feel love and compassion and nurturing, and wants to do the right thing, but can't do it because it's too hard to stand up for yourself. It's too hard to say no. It's too hard not to be compliant. And that's what they love. They love the compliancy. And nothing is more compliant than a pregnant mother who has no real knowledge about what birth is, because her families and her friends don't know much about it, other than what they've experienced at their trauma-bonded hospital experience, most likely. And so then you have these trauma-bonded women experiencing their birth through this very small scope and lens, and assuming this is birth and these are my rites of passage. And it's like, you weren't even given a fair chance, and you probably weren't even being guided with people who even knew what they were doing.
Exactly. We rely so much on our experts, and we've seen a lot of that in the past couple of years. It's always, what are they saying? And that's what we got to do. And I mean, in your line of work, it's definitely like, learn to trust your body. It knows what it's doing. But I think that applies in other areas too. Like, if we definitely talk a lot about, should you be wearing a mask if you think that is something that is wrong, that is, maybe useless? Or are you going to disclose your personal medical information to your school so you can attend and get your degree? Trust yourself. You have made a decision, and that should be enough for you to stand by.
We have an excellent example about this recently. We went out onto the streets to just interview random people about, we were just asking about abortions. And it's like every man that we asked, they're like, oh, I have no authority to speak about this. I'm a man. I got to turn to the experts, or you got to listen to the women. And it's like, well, you have an opinion. You clearly have one. This is what we're looking for. But everybody's just turning to the experts for medical advice or like legal advice, or they're turning to the experts for this and this, whereas we're just seeking opinions of people.
Yeah.
We just want to know something you're going to get.
For sure. And like, it's something where I think I had briefly touched up on it, and I got a lot of backlash, and I was like, whatever. Like, if I can't have an opinion about something that is so deeply relevant to me, that I have personally experienced, and where I probably have the most insight into that now. If you're someone who's been through it, you've experienced some sort of coercion into getting it, you felt like you had to do it, or society deems it's totally fine. Yeah, I mean, everyone has a choice. If you're living in this country and there's choices presented, well, then you can make a choice. But the problem is not really the abortion part. It's, why are we so carelessly having sex, not being connected to our cycles, thinking that, oh, I'll just quickly ejaculate and I'll just pop that pill right away and everything's going to be fine, where it's like there's no mindfulness. The mindfulness in conception has been lost. And then we're wondering why these babies are coming out completely traumatized, because the mothers are not planning for them. They're not taking the steps into creating rituals, even the sacredness of even washing your body before you have sex. Are people doing that? No, they're getting lost in that Hollywood moment of, let's rip off the clothes, and why doesn't it feel like Hollywood when I'm being pinned against the wall? And it's like, because his dick isn't going up there. Like, it's an illusion. This is an illusion. Porn is an illusion. Yes, it's become distorted, but this is what's happening. And so this culture, like the birth, the sex, all of it, it's so relevant, because how this mother is made to feel throughout her life is going to determine the choices that she has, whether she has an abortion or doesn't have an abortion, whether she keeps her baby or doesn't. And if she chooses to keep her baby, are the people around her going to support her? Right? Is the person that she had sex with even ready to take that upon? Because if you're not ready, then what the fuck are you doing? Learn how to go pleasure yourself. Put it into a cup. And back in ancient Egypt, men would drink back their sperm and take in back their fluids, But no one talks about these. No one talks about these rituals, this ancient medicine, that this is what's creating life. And men are taking their energy and putting it and just releasing this energy. And it actually creates more of this distortion, because for men, containing the testosterone is important, and then releasing it is important. For women, we have this endless cycle of constantly, like, women have multi-orgasms, right? You can have women have reported 3-4 orgasms, and the guy's just like, what the fuck is going on? She's like, just shut up, don't talk. I need to do this, right? And so you can see, even just with that, if we don't even have these open conversations about sex, then birth becomes another conversation that we don't want to have a conversation about, and all the things that come from that. So sex is the basis of everything in this reality. It's the only constant in life. Everything is having sex. The earth is proliferating. The summer, everything in the spring grows. In the summer, everything is more fruitful. And then everything dies again. So it's this constant fertility that's happening in the world. And that's also a reflection of us. But if we're constantly having sex and aborting, having sex and aborting, you're just aborting the creation. You're aborting you're aborting everything in your life. And it's very symbolic. And I'm not here saying you shouldn't have abortions. I'm saying let's take a deeper look on why this is happening so often. For women who've been sexually abused, who've been raped, who've been assaulted, who've been like, these are the real cases where I think this is what really is important for us to see. For the people who are just like, condom broke, sorry. Then it's like, well, now you should take responsibility because you want to play God. Let's play God then. I don't think, I watched this Bill Burr Netflix. Everyone should watch this, by the way. I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life. This newest Netflix on Bill Burr. He talks about everything controversial. And, comedians are really good because they know the truth, but they have to embed it in comedy because they can't say it outright. And they're playing the Joker card of the deck. So they got to look like idiots, but actually they're really smart because they know what's happening, but they're going to make you laugh about it to see how sarcastic they're going to make life. And he spoke about, let's talk about something, abortion. And the whole room just starts going quiet. He says, well, I understand both stories. And I totally resonated with this. It's just like women pro-choice. It's your body, your choice. If it's your body, your choice, why are we forced to get certain things happening to us throughout the last 3 years that we're forced on? What happened to that? Informed choice. Oh no, it's not informed if it means that I can't go to school and feel safe or go vacation without you. So it's very distorted on what informed choice is. And then the opposite side is you like to kill babies. And that's how simple it is. But of course, speaking like that, people don't want to say, I don't like to kill babies. Well, then why are you doing it? Well, it is. You don't mind killing babies. So it's not a baby yet. Okay, then what is it? What is it? It's a bunch of cells that's still creating life. So if you don't have a problem, so there's two opposite sides. One is I am totally pro-choice, speaking as someone who went through that and who felt like she had no choice I was in med school. Like, you're not about to go through Indian med school and you're not having a kid in med school. Like you're going to get killed. Like, this is how you die. And if it's not your parents, you're going to kill yourself because it's not going to happen. So you find ways to deal with that. And for that, I had to sit in that for 14 years and think about what I did because you never forget that. I don't care what person's saying, informed choice. You will never forget it because it's your womb that was attacked that day, no matter what. And I remember watching all the videos of how it happened. I remember crying out for my child and I couldn't. And I had to go right back to school. And then you bury that. So I think there's something very wrong with people assuming that we can't talk about these things because there is children being constantly mutilated, abused, aborted. And this is wrong that we don't even acknowledge that this is life that we are throwing away at each moment because we all need to feel more secure with, oh, but I have choices. Yeah, you have a choice. Why don't you just not come inside her? There's other places.
Take responsibility.
Yes, take responsibility.
There's a mouth. There's other places. Like, what is it? And so when people say this, I get upset because it's like, you guys aren't making smart choices then. Mm-hmm. And, we're so impulsive because we're not grounded and our root is so like, people can't figure out if they're ungrounded, they're just horny and sex and they just want sex. And then this entire industry of exploiting women on Instagram, social media, on TikTok, on Twitter. You got all the Kardashians, all Cardi B. You got these are the role models, Billie Eilish. These are the role models of young women constantly portraying sex like it's something to be constantly. It's like savage behavior, and it's exploited, and it's dark. And then women are so powerful, right? Like that is why they're scared because when women come together, we are scary. We get ideas. We talk about your husbands. We are like, I had a client who was like, I hate him. And I'm like, I know. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. I'm like, you got to talk to him. I hate him. I know you hate him, but he's the father of your child. Like, you got to talk about this stuff. And when women come together, they just open up. And it's like, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be hating on our partners. We need to be coming together and coming from a place of love and understanding. And the more we can do that, the more we can help women feel more empowered about the decisions that they're making with themselves, with their body, and even their children. Because if the mothers aren't making choices and the fathers aren't supporting those choices, then the kids are just going to be learning from all of that. And if they don't feel they can trust the parents, they're going to learn it from Cardi B. They're going to learn it from we're going to learn from Kylie Jenner. Oh, I'm going to get pregnant at 19 and my life is going to be frigging Balenciaga. And it's like, she has $100 billion. Like, are you kidding me right now? You want to go see how expensive diapers are every single day of your life? You know? And then, you know, I've just gone through this work so much because I've had my experiences. I went through med school. I witnessed births. I've probably done over 150 births now, you know, a lot of them at home. And I just feel so deeply connected to really protecting these people because they're your mothers, they're your sisters, they're your daughters, they're your children. I know what I'm doing for myself. Do you know what you're doing for yourself? I have no problem telling someone where to fuck off. I can say it to your doctor. I can say it to your midwife. I can write a report on anybody. I don't have a problem. I know how to navigate this life. I'm very strong. And if I die, I know at least I died doing what I wanted to in this life. But if you're going about your day and you're feeling scared and nervous, then you need to acknowledge those feelings because that is not going away. And it's manifesting into something more physical later if you ignore that, where people have cancers and they're like, oh, I have throat cancer. Well, you never spoke up.
Yeah.
You know, I have colitis and Crohn's. Well, you're keeping your emotions in your gut. You refuse to speak. And this is what's happening. And if people think, oh, no, it's going to go away. I'll just go to Cuba a few more times. Oh, it's coming right back. And when you're hammered on Cuba, making out with every guy in the freaking corner, you know that there's a part of you that's so longing for love because you weren't honored in that right from the beginning, right? So I'm not saying that's everybody's story, but a lot of what women go through is just not feeling loved in the way that feels secure for them. And so your whole life you go about looking for that. And a child re-brings that love into your life. But then even going through this passage, how you're made to feel while bringing your child from the astral, if you're not made to feel with love and respect and confidence and compassion, it's going to be a rude awakening for what you chose to stay silent in your whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how outspoken you are and just completely
yes,
unfiltered.
It's really allowed to say that. You can cut that stuff out.
It's really rare these days to meet people like this, and it's amazing to have you on. And that's the main reason why we have you on here, is to inspire that in our students that are part of our organization and everybody else who would be watching this. But you have also been censored about all of this stuff, which we'll get to a little bit later. And you mentioned med school quite a bit. So let's talk about med school and how you got in there, where you studied, and what your story is on that part.
So I was very desperate to go into med school, as every Indian is at 18. And so you only really have three jobs: lawyer, engineer, and doctor. My sister's an engineer. I was the lawyer. I was a doctor, sorry, and there was no other third child, so spare them. I went to med school at 18. I have, because I'm British, so I have a British passport, and it was a little bit easier for me to go there. And so I wanted to go, and my dad found me a way to go, and that was going into English medical schools. The school that I went to was called Semmelweis University, and ironically, that man was put in prison for helping women to wash their hands, because he was an OB doctor, and he said, we need to wash our hands. We need to wash our hands while we're with these women. They're all dying. They were all dying in birth in the 1800s. And they put him in prison for 100 years until he died. They put this completely competent doctor who was talking about basic health hygiene, washing hands, going from person to person with blood all over you, and they locked him up in prison for freedom of speech.
This is the doctor that's the school's named after?
Yes.
Okay.
Semmelweis. He has a very long first Hungarian name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It's with a G, I think.
And it's a school in Hungary?
It's a school in Hungary. So it's in Budapest, Hungary.
But it's English program that taught...
It's an English program, yeah. So there's an English, German, and Hungarian program, and I was in the English program, and there was students from all over the world, like a lot from Canada went, US, Africa, South America, some from Africa, yes, all over Europe, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Australia. Like they had a dental program, vet, and English program in this.
Very international.
Very international. You can imagine the cash that's being racketeered in there. Like we're talking 15,000 euros a year just on tuition. And not forgetting the 20,000 you're spending to live there. So it's like your whole parent is working just to put you through school, right? So going through that experience was, no regrets at all. It made me who I am. Looking back, I wouldn't do it any differently. I'd probably party harder, knowing that it was all going to end up like this anyway. I probably would have done even more. I probably would have traveled even more, spent more of my parents' money. Like now, if I had that, I would have. But I just was living in fear that I needed to pass my exams. If I didn't pass my exams, like I'm a loser, and like you're against the best of the best. And coming from this Canadian Ontario education, like you were not prepared for life. You were too busy doing these just not even prepared for life. And I was already very mature. I found at 18, I had been through things and I felt very grown up very early. So I just, you fake it till you make it. You convince your parents, like, I'm going to be a dumb doctor and like, I'm going to do it. And you think you're going to do it. But then, you're 18 in Europe. Like, what did you expect was going to happen? Like, who sends their 18-year-old daughter to Europe the first year? It's like, it was a dream. I had my own apartment. I made a lot of friends. We would party every weekend, every day almost sometimes. And you go to class. And then, you're forgetting that you're also there to study. So you'd go to school and you're trying to learn, but it's so hard for you because you realize you don't actually have proper learning skills that you just didn't apply. And learning, I feel like now at 30, now I'm like, now I want to learn. Like I have things I want to learn about, I want to learn about this and I want to learn about that. And I want to learn about dolphins at this age and how they all like talk to each other. And I want to learn about dolphin births. Like I was not thinking about dolphin births when I was 18. I was thinking about how can I become a doctor so my parents love me and I can find a rich Indian husband. This was my programming. And I think it's for many, many programmed people because that's the dream that you're thought to be. You watch enough Bollywood movies, it's going to work for you. Your parents obviously did that, which they didn't. So it's obviously going to work for you. You need to break your ancestral poverty by becoming a doctor and marrying a rich Indian doctor. And that was the dream that I was living in. But obviously, you're in Europe. Oh, no, that wasn't going to happen. So, you grow up with insecurities. You don't have love the way you felt like you needed it from a man. And the first person you love is your father. And, no blame at all. It's just, we're all coming from childhood trauma and I get it now, right? Dated the wrong people, got pregnant with the wrong person. That was a very traumatic experience where I couldn't believe that I had so much judgment about people who would have abortions and there was me going into one of them. And by the way, this is the first time I'm ever saying this live, so I don't know. I feel like it has to be said because it's part of the story, right? And it's part of like why I got into birth work, right? The real reason, at least. And just going through that experience was probably the worst thing I ever had been through. I was 18, so alone, going from back and forth, trying to get this paperwork done so I could be a resident to have an abortion in Hungary. Like you needed money, you needed, they didn't speak English. When you go to these places, they're 2 hours to get there. You miss one paper, you go back, you have to spend another, $100 in a cab ride back, which you don't really have the money for. And now you're realizing like, this is life. Like this is when life, you thought you were a kid. Now let's show you what you think you were having fun. I'm going to show you what life really is like. And I felt like I was just on a survivor mode at that moment, right? So the male part of me came on and was like, we need to fix this. This must be fixed. We must fix. How do you fix it? Got all the doctors, lined it all up, did it, went there, did it by myself, but my roommate had one with me. Came back and the guy didn't even acknowledge me. He's like, good, you did it?
Wow.
Yep, I did it. Good. It's over? Yep, it's over. Great. And I was like 18, this person was 21. And I never forgot about that. But because you're so trauma bonded to the experience, 3 weeks later, I was dating him again. And so it really made me see how much I was so internally, I was like broken inside. And I think I was broken for a long time and I was trying to fill things with voids, but I couldn't. And so, we dated another couple of years and, you do your best with your exams. You have so much going on. Your parents have no idea why maybe they'll know now. They have no idea why you did what you did and why you made the choices that you made. And so I had ended up failing a year for my exams, ended up getting kicked out. And I just came back to Toronto and I was like, oh my God, is this my life? Like, I am a failed med student. This is pathetic. And it's not. It's like, I fucking went to med school. How many people can say that? But in my mind, it was failure because you didn't complete it. And you've just been kicked out of something that you spent 3 years in, a lifestyle that you had there. Used to being independent, you go pay your own bills, you do whatever the fuck you want. You want to party, you party. And now you're back to reality. And I was like, I cannot handle this. And so I found a way to go back. And this time I was going to go to Prague because they had other medical schools there, Charles University. So I went to some beautiful cities. Like, these are gorgeous cities. Like, people dream to be going to these cities, and I got to live in these cities. So I feel very blessed and privileged. It came with a cost for me, at least in my work, but I didn't let it stop me. I was like, no, fuck it. I made a mistake. No one knows the truth. I'm going to find a way to go back in. And so I found another way to go in. And remember, there's money being, like, there's a lot of money going in here, right? So a lot of money is being put towards my doctor education, and went to Prague, went to Sweden, had a really good 4 months in Sweden to do this transfer course to go into Prague. Like, I was very, like, when it comes to finding information, like, if I need to do something, I do not wait for anybody. I will find a way. I don't care I don't care.
Nice.
Do not tell me you have excuses in your life. Like, if I can find out how to do an abortion in Hungary, you can fucking know what to do. Like, it is not possible. It's too much of this like mentality of I need to be handheld. I need to be, it's like in one moment I just grew up. And I think as women, you constantly do grow up, because you end up having your menstrual cycle. You have your bleed every month, where you constantly have to clean yourself and you constantly have to take care of yourself. So this nurturing aspect of you comes from your first menstruation. And so this is already what's embedded in me already. I know how to take care. I know how to problem solve my way out of everything. And yeah, the solution to the problem always exists. I could have kept it, and but at that moment, I was not thinking about, oh, I'm going to keep it. It was more like, okay, you're going to die or you get rid of this. These are your options here. And probably my mother would have let me keep it at that moment, like looking back now 14 years. But at that moment, that's all I knew, because I lived in full fear of what my parents would think about me. And my culture didn't accept that. Like, Indians were not getting pregnant. Like, you can ask all your Indian friends, you can ask all of them, no one's getting pregnant at 18. So that was not happening for me, at least. And
in Hungary, if I remember correctly, they have pretty strict abortion laws there too, right? Like, you can't get an abortion for any reason at any time, like you can here.
Well, it's true. And you cannot. And because I was a British citizen, I was allowed it.
Oh, wow. So if you're international, you go by like different rules.
Because I paid everything privately.
Oh, you went through the private system. Yes, they have a private.
So I didn't go through a public system, which is, at that point, like, you're in school with the best of the richest people in the world, really. Like, these people have money. If you spend $30,000 to go for school for 1 year, some people were spending 50 because they were living in lavish luxury hotels. Yeah. They were like, go do it privately. Don't do it public. Don't do it public. And you don't want to go through a public system. Like, you want these records off. Like, you just thought someone was going to find out about you. The Indian drama, Bollywood in the head. Your future Bollywood husband is going to go and do a backtrack of your history and find your abortion. It's just like the thoughts that would go through your mind, right? It was just like, so you just needed to make sure that there was no tracks left. So yeah, you can definitely go through a private system. A lot of Europe is actually pro-abortion. I think Italy is obviously the exception because of the Vatican, but a lot of it is pro-abortion. You'd be surprised.
Okay.
Like a lot of Scandinavia, they're totally fine.
Yeah.
You can do abortions there.
Well, yeah, more of the Eastern Europe is hesitant. They're more anti-abortion. Like in Ukraine, I know it's only for very, very specific reason. Yeah. Like if there's a rape victim or sexual assault, things like that. Or if it's like there's a risk to the woman's life. And that's not even called an abortion anymore, right?
No, it's not.
No, it's more like, it becomes more like a medically induced.
Yeah. Medically induced procedure, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, like more of the Western Europe is more acceptable of that, and their traditions are kind of erased.
And like I say to people, like, I made a decision based on what I knew then. If I knew myself then, would I have the kid? I don't know. It's hard to say, right? I was not in the right mind frame. I definitely had the worst partner at that moment ever, who just denied me and didn't accept me for who I was. And I understand women go through that. So it's about, for me at this point in my life, in 2022, not looking back at 2008, am I making conscious choices to be with people that if these things do happen, that they're going to help me if I do get pregnant again, because I'm not actively planning it, but I'm at a stage where I'm fertile. I'm 30. I'm working birth. Like, I have a partner. I have a life.
Yes, they talk about that in the training. It's
you could get pregnant. Like, you're around it.
You spend a lot of time talking about it and working with women and the whole, like, syncing of hormones thing.
Yeah.
I took a doula course as well, so I'm trained. There you go.
Everybody.
I haven't talked about that before.
Every woman is a doula. That's what I say.
So there's two doulas in a room.
Yes. There we go. But yeah, in my training, they talked about that. They were like, you will likely either get pregnant or at least get your period at the end of this course, because we're talking about it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've synced. Well, me and my dog have synced, which is funny. And then the other day I was I had like a women's picnic with all my clients, like some of my clients, and some of them, not all, but the ones who can make it. And I told them like, hey guys, one day I was showing a client how to breastfeed, and I started showing them how to hand express with my breast. Because women just, when women come together, we just pop out our boobs and it's totally normal. Like guys don't do that. They don't just whip out their penises and like, look at my penis, right? Like women do that because we're just like boobs, like whatever. Like that's what babies do, right? And I started hand expressing and I started seeing colostrum coming out, and I thought I was pregnant. And I'm like, wait a minute. Colostrum doesn't come out at day one. Like what is going on? And I realized at that moment, I'm actually producing milk with these women. So if I needed to, ancestral ways, like ancestral times, sometimes mothers would die in childbirth. Sometimes they would be twins and you're in a village. So the grandmother would help breastfeed one of the children. So then all of us have the ability to still continue producing milk, even if we haven't had children. So that's what it made me realize. I'm like, wow, our bodies are amazing.
That's crazy.
I can produce milk just by being with other women.
Yeah.
Like that's talk about sovereignty and food supply. It's great.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So there is something very magical, and I feel like beyond all of this, there is like a cosmic force that is helping us to come into our own realizations and powers, right? And some people go through life with certain adversities, which is definitely hard. Some people we look at and we think, oh, their life is so easy. And sometimes it is. Like everyone has a choice on how they want to view their life and then how they want to make it. It's all about you. It's the choices that you make. You have free will. You can choose to not react. You have all that ability. So for me, at least I knew very early on, like I had this guide in me, and whether that was my ego or not, like it helped me get to this point of who I am right now.
So you going back to the story when you went to Prague and you wanted to get back into the medical school. So you said you dropped out afterwards. Mm-hmm. How did you become a doula, and when did that thought, like when did you develop into thinking, okay, well, I'm going to do this other thing now, and I'm completely done with going into being a medical doctor?
So when I had left Prague, so I spent 3 years in Prague. The last year in Prague, I was 25 now. Okay, so fully developed brain here. I started smoking cannabis, a lot of it, and it's what helped me not take prescription pills, to be honest, because I was at that point taking antidepressants just to get through school. And Ritalin, you're taking a combination cocktail. And when you're a med student, you can get anything. Like, it's amazing. Like, you're just like, oh, Ritalin, let's take this some more and let's just go through another exam. So cannabis really helped open my mind. When I came back, I basically told myself I'm going to take a break. I hadn't quit then. So I took a break. I was going to come back. I just need a year off. I just need to be with my family. That's what I need. I need to be with my family.
So you put it on pause with the school. Okay. And did they allow you to continue from the 3 years you did in Hungary?
They said no. I had to restart.
Okay, so you completely from scratch. Yeah, that's what I figured.
All over again. So I started again from one. Had some courses like transferred, like some of the biochemistry, some of the physics courses transferred. But the anatomy and like the basics, you had to do all over again, the physiology, all that stuff. Yeah. It's like the basic fundamental of like the entire
And they
body.
say, oh, we teach you better than them, so that doesn't count.
Yeah. Like you're talking of the...
Like Europeans are so proud of that.
They're so proud. And it's like, my university's older, my dick is bigger. Like it's like you're talking about medical egos.
Yeah.
And the ones teaching the students to become the ones who make the enforced decisions. So, if you were on their good side, they loved you. If you were, especially in Europe, like there are a lot of like, these are like old men from the war. Like they were smoking in front of our we'd be doing dissection. They'd be smoking cigarettes over the body. And one of them would come completely hammered into class every day. Brilliant man. He's dead now.
Yeah.
Right. But
this is a professor.
These are professors.
Yeah.
And just brilliant individuals, but had so much of their own trauma. And you realize like, this is what's being taught. Right? Brilliant people, but didn't really get the full thing. Like it's going to come back because it didn't take care of the body. You're going to come back. Anything you did not do in this life, you don't take care of your body, you're coming back. It is a crime to be against this body. It is a crime not to vibrate with this body. Right? So this is the stuff that I've learned and we work with, 17 generation shamans from Africa, right? These are the things that we're learning from them. This is not only my wisdom, it's what I'm hearing what they say in the jungle. They're like, you guys are all messed up in the West. You all have antidepressant and anxiety and stress. And what is that? I never saw so much sickness in this part of the world. And it's like, yeah, because everyone is being told to be quiet and don't talk and don't follow your truest calling. And there are more ways than just going through this narrative. And you can be. And if you don't believe that you are worthy of this life, then you have some serious stuff that you need to talk about, and what you think who you are and what you know you are, because your view is so small. Especially at 18, my view was so small. Even though I went to Europe and I saw this different life, my view was more than most people here in Toronto, for sure. And I was very blessed that I was born in England and I could go back year after year and see a year. And in people who are immigrant families, they get to see a different side because their culture dictates. But a lot of people who've never left this place will not know how big the world really is outside of this bubble that's here. And by the time I came back, I worked at Joey's. I worked at Cineplex as a bartender. I was the only jobs I could really get as a failed medical student.
So this is after you took a break from med school in Prague.
In Prague, yeah.
So you just took I'm taking a year off,
yeah.
And you went home and you never came back.
I never went back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you started working just regular jobs.
Just regular jobs, yeah. So like bartending, and when you're a girl and you're semi-decent looking, you'll use that. That's what you're taught to, no? It's what everybody's teaching you how to do. They groom you to get married. They groom you to look good. So, you go online and you're seeing Christina Aguilera doing it. Let's groom it. Mm-hmm. So Joey's, of course, everybody knows Joey's in Toronto and Ontario. We know, how the staff have to look and how they have to appease their clients. So, okay, I got these boobs. Let's use them. And that was my mentality then, because I needed to work. And I wanted to work somewhere that was close by. And I knew tip money was great, because I worked bartending before. I had catering. I worked for catering events, and I worked for bartending mostly. And anybody who wants to make money, that's where you make money.
That's a lot of tips right there.
A lot of tips. I would be bracketeering weddings, $500-$600. I put some really nice red lipstick on, do my hair really nice. And they loved it. And that's what you were taught how to do. And I used what I knew at that time of what women's sexual confidence is. I use it at that time. That's the only thing that I knew. And I didn't know anything else than that, even though I knew Indians, but you're trying so hard to be away from your family. You don't want to be that Indian good girl. You want to go full rebel bad girl, quit med school, doing a bunch of cannabis, working at Joey's, right? And Joey's was great.
You did a full 180.
Just full 180, right? My parents what the have I raised? Did I not? And my sister, such a good person, getting 99% in school. She's amazing. She's an engineer. But I was the complete opposite, and I was the part of my parents that they repressed, right? That's the part of you that's repressed. So I was a reflection of my parents, of what they didn't want to see. And that was the year that I really started exploring with psychedelics and plant medicine, LSD, MDMA, mushrooms. And that's when I had quit med school, when it opened up my heart into something more than I could ever believe that was love. And I didn't know I had no self-love. Well, not no self-love, but I didn't have enough self-love where I could recognize it. I think I had self-love, but that's something that is taught to you as well. Just like fear. Fear is taught to you. You come in with love, but how you're made to feel every day of your life after that really reflects on how your parents love each other. If your parents don't love each other, or they're loving the way that's how you're going to treat yourself, being shameful, being misunderstood, being angry, being vocal at the wrong times. And that's what my life had become that year. So I had really experimented with a lot of stuff. And, when you get into the rave industry in Toronto, that's some amazing partying. Toronto raving is the craziest place I've ever been to. And this is pre-weird pandemic where everyone's so, let me check your passport. This is pre-passport. The best and the weirdest things that would happen and the funniest experiences, and you're tripping out on lights and this, through that I started this glow stick business, and that obviously failed in moments, but you were just so high from the love that you're you need to come back to reality. So it took me into a very different spin about finally accepting that there were things that were wrong with me, and or I had my imperfections. I didn't need to be this goody two shoes Indian girl trying to be this doctor that everyone thinks. It's not about that. It's not about being a doctor. I mean, I think if you want to be a doctor, be it. But you need to know who you are, because you are going to handle people who have a lot of real issues. And it's not about, oh, my leg is broken. It's deep trauma. And if you don't know how to talk to them, if you don't know how to conduct yourself, you can really be altering and changing this person's life. And that's what I realized, that I wasn't even really capable of conducting myself. How was I going to lead and help support people in healing? I need to heal myself first. How am I going to heal anybody else? So this is that I find it's always backwards. I need to heal somebody. Heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Heal yourself first. Figure out why you can't do your bed every day in the morning. Why can't you do the simple things? Why can't you go brush your teeth? Why can't you go spend some time exercising every day? If you can't do the basics, you're not really capable of healing, because you can't do it yourself.
Take the plank out of your own eye first.
For sure. Right. And so that year was a very hard year. I needed to go back and needed to pay my, my medical school bills were coming in. My dad's like, what do you want to do? And the day that I remember quitting med school, I was in IKEA on a lot of drugs because that's the only way I could do it. And I remember being on this table with my mom, my dad, and my sister. And I was like, I'll meet you at IKEA. I was coming back from a party. I was up till it was 7 a.m. And the
you
party,
just met them in IKEA to
I'm
discuss
gonna
the
meet
future?
you in IKEA. They were so upset at me because I had spent 2 days out, and they just didn't know what was going on. They thought I was doing their worst fear. I was doing heroin on a bedside park. I'm like, no, I'm doing LSD in a room right now with my boyfriend and my 2 friends. This is what we do. I just want to feel good. That's what I was doing at that time. And so I remember I taken a bunch of stuff, and I came to that moment, and I'm like, I hate medical school. I hate who I am in it. I hate that I don't feel comfortable and confident in I don't feel like I'm even caught up with the work. I feel like I'm just lying to everybody about what I don't want to be this person anymore. And I remember I'm sitting in IKEA and I just say, I'm not going back to school. And I'm just crying and crying. And my mother's crying. Everyone's crying in the Bollywood scene.
And you guys are at IKEA.
IKEA.
Having this crazy change in your life.
Yeah. 10 a.m, everyone's eating their $1 breakfast around them. There's a little Asian family behind me eating. They're looking at us, what the hell's happening?
What's happening?
They're probably thinking, oh, thank God it's not my kid. And I'm like, oh, for sure it's your kid. There's a lot of Asians at Rebel. I'll tell you that right now. I know your kids are there because I met half of them. So it was such a moment of clarity for me. It was probably the clearest I've ever been with myself and the most honest I ever was. And then I just remember crying, and my dad said, okay, if that's what you want to do, then you have to pay back your loans. My mom's like, I'm not paying for any more of your stuff. I'm like, okay, that's fair. And so I remember I just felt so liberated. But obviously it never is just like that, because now it's now you need to pay for this, and you have a boyfriend that's this, and he's not staying here, and this. And there's all these rules that come from it. It doesn't come from a place of okay, let's see, why are you so, it's more like I sacrificed everything for you and you fucked it up. Mm-hmm. And that's what it felt like. I had done that. So I had actually left for Germany to go back again for another year. I was a vegan that year, and I decided to work at my uncle's leather manufacturing company, which was...
So you went to Europe to do something completely different now.
To go make money to pay for all these medical loans. But I still didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I took another year off, went to Germany, didn't even know what I was doing there. Obviously, there's no drugs in Germany. That's what I found out. So obviously, it was very straightforward. You go to Amsterdam, but you're smoking cannabis, you're too scared to bring it back. There would be dogs on the train smelling if you had cannabis, and you're like, oh shit, did I bring anything on me? It's so paranoid there. And here everyone's every person has cannabis here, right? So Germany, I'm actually grateful for that trip, because I think I was getting really deep into the scene here, and I didn't want to come out of it because there was so many layers to the things that you can learn, but it needs to come in balance too, right? People go on benders and they spend their time there and they become so unmotivated. And I felt like that was becoming me. I felt so unmotivated, and I felt angry, and I hated my jobs too. So Germany was a restart for me. I spent time getting to know my family, my uncle there, and his business and what it takes to run a business. If you like this, you can take it. I hated it. I hated the fashion. I thought the fashion industry was you get to wear cute clothes and take photos. No, that's an influencer's life. The fashion industry is from picking the label to the thread to the actual manufacturing that's happening to the packaging the boxes. It was how do people do this? And so I had left Germany, coming back to Toronto. Then I spent another month in Toronto, went to Panama. This is a crazy story. Spent 2 months in Panama with a friend who had online Amazon businesses. He was making about 120,000 US a month on this business. And he said, come and stay at my house with your then boyfriend and just come chill out. You don't have to pay for rent. I was teaching kids online in China at that point on VIP Kid and these other online Asian English websites, and making a lot of money, almost $2,000 a month. It's funny it's funny in that part of the world how they look at people as if you're pretty, they trust you know English. So I put my nice pink lipstick on at 3 a.m. because I'm in Panama and this is in China now. 3 a.m, pink lipstick, cute little haircut, put all these pictures behind me. I'm like, hi, Cindy, do you want to talk about school? And you go so charismatic. And so it was such a wonderful time of I would teach these little 3-year-olds to speak English all the way to 16. We have these really amazing conversations. They would tip me off these Asian WeChat things. I never extracted the money out of it, so I have no idea where that money is right now. Probably got $20 on there. I could probably use that right now every now and then. But And I just took a full break and I realized I'm like, I think I know what I want to do. I need to go back and find out. I need to go back into health services, but I need to go and find out something. But I know what the first thing I need to do is I need to leave my parents' house. And that's the first thing I need to do. And I need to not be a burden for them in their life, for them to recognize that they feel like a failure every day with me. And I need to just take that away from them. So I went back. My ex-boyfriend and then we made a plan. We're going to rent a place. My mom had gone to India on a trip that month in October. The day she went after India, I left, moved to this location in Leslieville in this basement. Like in Little India, it was a nice place. And, my dad obviously completely just like confused what just happened. Indian father, don't want to talk about emotions, represses emotions, angry, but loves you, but will never show it. Mm-hmm. So, took me out for a coffee and wanted me to do this thing that he said, why don't you do this? I'm like, what is this? He's like, it's a doula. I'm like, I don't want to be a doctor. Like, I don't think any of you understand that. And he's like, it's not a doctor. I'm like, then what is it? I was just so triggered by this entire experience that I got kicked out of my own house. And I left, but I literally got kicked out because they didn't want me there. Mm-hmm. And
you got introduced to this.
I got introduced to it. So it somehow came in. I didn't listen to him because who listens to their father? Let's be honest. You didn't listen to his, right? So like, obviously didn't listen to him. But then my aunt had said, hey, like, why don't you come over for lunch? Like, she knew I was having a hard time. And she always liked me because I'm like this with everybody. I'm just like very open and loving and caring and I care about you. But like, I don't want to do what you want me to do. Like, I want to do whatever makes my heart feel right. Like, I'm like the wind. I'm like the water. I flow. Like, I'm like a horse. You cannot trap me. If I need to run, I need to run. Like, you cannot hold me. And that's just my personality, Chinese medicine, horse, Aquarius, number 1. It's like all those things that are signing for like truth needs to like cannot contain this person's energy. And so my aunt had said, why don't you look at this doula work? I'm like, okay, what is doula now? Now you're freaking me out. What is doula? What is this job? And they're like, oh, I don't know what's to do with pregnancy. I'm like, so you don't know what it is. This guy doesn't know what it is. And I'm supposed to figure out what this is. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yes, of course.
So they gave me this number. I'm like, okay, I'll call them. Call this woman. She's the head of the Doula training in Toronto. Stephanie, I'm sure. I don't know if she did training with her. Okay. So she does the training out of Toronto Yoga Mamas. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm having a doula night that night. Why don't you come and see what we do? We help support mothers in pregnancy. And, we help them to have a more memorable experience while they go through this a very important transition. And I was like, okay, sounds interesting. Look up at the address. The address is a 5-minute walk down the street. So I'm literally living at the doula center. The person who was the closest to that doula center during the training, which is even more crazy. So it was like totally meant to be. Did the training and thus began my life, right? Like I felt like I was reborn. And that time of doula training, I was also doing yoga teacher training. And then from there I was like doing, ayahuasca medicine. So it all came very congruently with like this rebirth experience of working with plant medicine, working with the metaphysical, working with birth, working to like understand myself better, and all happening at the same time and never really expecting it to have come this far. Like doula is my full-time job. Like I don't even have to advertise anymore because I put so much work into doing all the jobs, like any job, and however far it was, I will take a bus to get there. I will get there. I will get to your birth. That's the kind of person I am. There's 4 births in a week. I'm not missing any of them. I will pop that coffee right in, take some tobacco in my nose, and I'm going to work because I am not going to miss your birth. That's how I am. I'm not going to do, if I don't have to miss your birth, I will not miss your birth. And so it became like this calling when I started to see the women who were being abused.
So this is where you started to get exposure to the medical industry and what was going on, really.
Totally.
Corruption and coercion and abuse.
Which is something you've been very outspoken about.
Yes.
Totally.
Online.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was probably like one of the very few ones to really speak out about it. Probably the only one in Ontario in such a long time. It would be talk in the group chats. They would be like, Billie Harrigan is an inspirational woman. If anybody ever needs to know, look at this person, Billie Harrigan, Harrigan. And she was probably one of the first people that I got to contact, and she was telling me about all this stuff. But, she's in her 60s. She's not using social media like a 22-year-old or 25-year-old, She's not using that kind of way, right? So I was probably the first person to really speak about the trauma that was going on to these women whose babies were being pulled out of them. They were being drugged up with more drugs, with more epidural, more fentanyl, more Pitocin, more morphine, babies being pulled out, women being cut open, told that we need to speed up labor, we need to break your water, we need to pull out your baby faster, your body doesn't know how to birth, we need to induce you at 41 weeks because, you got pregnant, but, you don't really know how to get it out, so we're going to force you to take your body out. It's like this delusional concept of, it came in, I think it knows how to come out, you can't be pregnant forever. It doesn't work like that. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I mean, my great-grandmother birthed 10 of her children in India on a damn farm with nothing around. The toilet was outside. If she can do it, what is up with us? And so I never really questioned my surroundings until really the pandemic started. I already known there was something wrong. We talked about it, but no one ever wanted to admit it because the doula community doesn't want to talk about this stuff because no. We can't talk about the trauma and the rape that's happening towards women because that means that we're part of it. Yeah, we're all part of it because no one's talking about it. And the only difference between a doula, the only difference between a rapist and someone who is part of the medical system like this is that the victim is left still, not being cared for, and no one is speaking up for the victims. No one. Everyone is too busy doing their liability and their litigations, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these lies, and I'm sick of these women who call themselves midwives and doctors, and you are here in the name of women and children, and you dishonor yourself. You dishonor this work by being part of the trauma, and it's like, it's so hard to see what happens because you see it's like a distorted part of the consciousness where they think that they're failures, but they're not. It's because the medical system fails them every day by telling them their bodies need to be saved from their babies. And it's sick. And it's like this industry of fingering women and pregnant women and constantly needing to shove their hands into them. It's why are men in this industry? I don't understand. What are you doing in this industry? Isn't there enough penises for you to go look at? I just don't understand. Oh, a man is good at OB, so he's an OB. So you're telling me another man is going to shove his hands inside my wife? Just listen to that for a second. Are you going to allow another man to put his hand inside your woman's womb? Oh, because he's a doctor. Great. That gives him complete access, 007 here, to stick his fingers into every single woman in the city. What is this? This is disgusting. This is women's work. And the unfortunate thing about this work is that there is so much confusion in pronouns and all this that it's become so people are so compliant to everything where, you know what? I'm going back to the roots because that's where we can find a lot of the truth. Going back to the originals. I go back to the roots. I go back to the ancestry, how the women in the villages would do it. The wisdom woman, the oldest woman with the most children would be the midwife. Obviously, she's going to know the most, isn't she? Not the one who's read the most books and who's played it safe her whole way. We can't play it safe. Like there's no, this is an illusion of safety that the medical industry gives. If you follow these rules, your baby will be safe. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that your baby could come out traumatized. You will still end up in a C-section. And worst case scenario, okay, your baby is dead, but you now have to deal with all the things that you participated because of that. And again, we get trauma bonded to the experience. We think our doctor saved us, and our grandparents, our parents think, oh, the doctor saved me. It's like, you weren't even given a chance. Like women had twilight births where they used to chloroform these women in the 50s and pull out their babies when they were chloroformed. This is what we're coming from. And the history of birth is not talked about at all, especially in Canada, what was happening here. I'm not talking about 1,000 years ago. I'm talking about literally 50 years ago, what was happening to women here. And this is disgusting. And anybody who is coming up in any part of their student life, work life, this will come to you because birth comes to everybody who wants it. And most people want families. It's the only two constants in life is like birth and death. So the industry is, I had a job all year. I had a job through the entire pandemic. I didn't stop having a job because I was the only one of the very few people who would go in and would not be scared about getting COVID and would not be scared to help mothers. I'm like, bring it on, COVID. Let's see what you're made of. Let's see what you're so scared. Everyone is so scared about you for. I want to see, am I going to get it? I never got it. I probably worked with I probably had, since the beginning of the pandemic, probably 50 people I helped birth did not get COVID once. So what does that say? I don't know. But my mentality was like, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on these women who've had their families give up on them, their partners maybe. The medical system for sure gave up on them. So it's like that last bit of hope. And there was actually a few of us that are in this, like the team that I have and the people who work with me on my company, we're all aligned on the same page. I don't really care if you decided to take the jab or not. It's not really my concern if you did. But were you coerced into it? Did you want to take it? Do you know anything about other things that might be coming up for you? Like what might happen to your baby? what might happen to you in pregnancy when they try and give you every single jab that you could ever imagine because they think that your body is toxic from your baby, so they want to protect you. But really, like, why is there more and more of these things that are happening more and more? Why is the C-section rate skyrocketing? 50% C-section rate in Brazil.
Wow.
You know?
That's a lot.
So this is what we're up against. And like these children, how they're coming in is very important. Yes, C-sections do happen. And for that, you know, there are many different reasons that those things happen. But at the rate of how babies are coming in and being traumatized, like there's not enough time for these souls to integrate onto Earth. Earth is a very hard place. From the minute you feel that butt wipe, you're crying. It is harsh. You are sensitive. And later on, you will become desensitized because life will desensitize you. But we don't need to be desensitized at this time. It's like, this is where our senses should be more heightened for our children. And so the censorship that I've been getting obviously is talking about what's happening to mothers, especially during the pandemic when they were being forced to mask with a birth with a mask on. Sorry, not the opposite way. No one masked with a birth on. Some were being forced to be by themselves for a very long time at the hospital before their partners could come.
That's horrible.
Some were being forced to have their partners leave after the baby was birthed. Some babies were COVID tested. Some of my clients' babies were COVID tested with COVID swabs to a newborn. Every baby that goes into sick kids or NICU in every hospital is COVID tested. Whether you want it or not, you will be crying and watching this 10-inch swab go up your baby's nose. And we have no idea what the long-term, we don't even know what's on that swab. So we have no idea. Babies' fontanelles are all open and they're soft. Everything's open here. So we have no idea. Like, if people are thinking that their medical industry is going to save them, you're in for a rude awakening if you end up in NICU. You know? And the reason those things happen is because of the induction and coercion rate happening in the medical system and just full-on compliancy. Just like no regard, no backbone, no wanting to ask things, too afraid to ask, and not enough knowledge in knowing who they are. When people don't know when you don't know who you are in fear of everything. When you know who you are, not even death can take you because it's just another part of life. It's just another transition. But everyone is so afraid of dying, they're not even living anymore. And this is what's happening. And if our goal is 100% survival rate, well, we're not accommodating for the women who are being brutally traumatized and how they will now carry that through the rest of their life and how that gets put onto their kid. And now their kid will grow up with trauma because their parents didn't have the support and no one wanted to acknowledge on standing up for women. And just because we can vote, I don't care if I can vote. You can take my vote. I do not want women being traumatized. The voting is irrelevant to me when women don't even have a choice on getting fingers put inside them during their pregnancy and during their birth. That is disgusting. That is rape. That is assault. That is sexual grooming. It's pedophilia. It's everything you can ever imagine under the sun in this.
Wow.
Sorry. It's a lot.
It's all right.
I'm obviously very excited about this topic because I live and breathe it every day.
Yes, absolutely. Something I want to talk about is community, because that is part of why I wanted to become a doula, is to have more of a role in my community someday, and be able to support women, support families. I took the birth doula training, but I'm also very interested in the postpartum, so I'll have to do that at some point, because I just want to help people. I don't know. That's just,
absolutely.
Yes, it sounds fantastic to me. So that's something that I want to learn more about. And you mentioned something about that earlier too, wanting to learn now that you're older. And I just finished my degree and I'm like, okay, school's done. Now I can start learning things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can learn the real stuff.
Yes, that's how I feel about things now. But yeah, community is something that is so important to me and us at CSANT. Like, that's what we've been trying to do this whole past year, is build community, because it's been shattered with the past 2 years being online and everybody is so divided, isolated. Obviously, it's a horrible thing what these women went through when they had to be alone in hospitals, in labor. And so many people have been alone for so much of the past 2 years. Our communities are like non-existent at this point. So we've been trying to build community with students, and I'm sure you've talked about like your picnic with a whole bunch of women. So what is the community like in the doula world?
That's a good question. So they're definitely like, I'm a bit of a different breed of character, right? Like that's why you guys probably resonate to me. Like, I'm a different person altogether. So the community that I had started in the beginning was really towards the women who were being ostracized from the community for not taking certain things in their body. And so that's where I started off with my community, because I felt like that's how I feel. Where are the women supporting this? Since then, it has grown to every single person, of course. And I think what happened was the things that I was saying the first year, people were like, oh, we don't like her. But then they went through the experience of birth and they saw what was happening. Even the ones who made certain medical choices to take certain things, they said, you were right about what was happening in the hospitals. We didn't know it was happening. Wow. You know, I remember I had a call with a nurse and she said, I took the jab, and she says, and now I'm pregnant and I'm scared. And I said, it's okay. I know I understand why you're scared. I get it. So I've done consultations with women, of course, and I would never discriminate anybody based on that, because I understand what it's like to not have a choice and feel like that's the only thing you have, and you made the best decision you could at that moment. So my community, I mean, I have a group chat of, I think there's like 500 women on there that I met through my last Instagram. And it was just women who needed a community of like other women to talk about what they're going through. Like everyone was at home for a long time, and not everyone's in Toronto, right? I have people in BC, I have people in the States, I have people in Quebec, and it's like random people who would follow me, some from India. I guess some Indians do follow me because I'm Indian, but just like a really big community of women close to us. And I feel like social media was such a good place because I had made all these videos that kind of went viral, which I never thought, because my stepson would laugh at my Instagram. He's like, your Instagram is 1,000. You're a loser on Instagram world. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I made these videos and they went viral, and this huge community poured through saying, we feel like this, we went through this, we went through this. So I started seeing what was important, and that was women need to talk about what's going on with them. They need to talk about the hardships and the good births that happen, and not just hearing about everyone's damn trauma story. And it needed to be about everything in a really safe space where I made this Telegram group chat. And so I got everybody on there. And then from there, I ended up getting more acquainted with all the doulas who felt in a similar manner to the way I did and the way I was conducting my business. And so they came about 100 doulas on there that came out through all of Ontario and parts of the States. Former OHIP midwives who had left their licenses and were now working as doulas. So it brought out a lot of people in search of community. And because of that, I just ended up making so many Telegram. What do you do? Make a Telegram group chat. You know, meeting Friday, Telegram group chat. Like you just keep on making group chats, and I have like, I think 6 group chats. I don't even know what's going on in them. But some of them are like birth doula. Some of them are professionals. Some of them are like all the mothers. Some of them are like only my clients who I have together. So just so then for me, I feel like I'm doing my part to put people together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have park meetings like once or twice a year, and it's always hard to get women together because, you know, something always comes up, someone's kids get sick or someone has swing lessons. But it's been for 2 years straight during the pandemic. I had my party, and there was 20 pregnant and non-pregnant women all meeting outside, doing crazy things, drinking, you know, orange juice, breastfeeding our babies outside, eating food and talking. It was dangerous stuff. And we were sitting in our backyards outside, all 20 of us. I think there was maybe like, because I have a really big front lawn, and so I think there was like 20 cars parked outside, and I'm like,
that's fantastic.
Guys, what am I going to do? Like, what if I get a ticket? And I'm like in King City. They're like, you're not going to get a ticket. I'm like, what if I get a ticket? My friend comes in, she's pregnant, 7 months. She's like, give me the damn ticket. I'll deal with it. I'm like, great. I love this mother energy, this mama bear energy that's like, I am not putting up with shit. And these women were the ones who would be like, they would walk out with their bellies this big in little bikinis. They were so hot in the middle of summer last year. And someone would come up to them and be like, where's your mask? She's like, I'm not wearing a mask. And they would be like full on, like, you do not want to. One thing you do not do is you do not confront a pregnant woman. She will rip you right one. She will not care. She's not having a good day or a bad day. She doesn't feel good. Her back hurts. Her vagina hurts. Her stomach hurts. She has bloating. You will be her latest victim. And my clients, like, you do not mess with them. And because we're all vibrating in the same way, like, I boost them and they feel even more of it, right? And when their families are telling them, don't do this, don't this, I boost them even more. And they're like, and that's why I'm not bragging about my home birth rates, but since we started doing this work and since we started creating boundaries and being more open, and since I started doing this work, the midwives have become a lot better at these births because they know that if they don't, and if you are part of the problem causing trauma, you will be reported. People are standing up for themselves. They're not going to take you abusing them. They're not going to take you abusing their children. They're not going to take the one thing that you took away from them for 3 years. You didn't let families be together for 3 years. They're not going to take that. And nothing is more fierce than a mother who is about to birth. She will literally rip you. She will literally leave her husband if it means that she has to protect her child. And this is just very primitive instincts, right? So my goal is to never break apart families. No, like I have a husband myself. So like I love the divine masculine part of me because it's such a strong part, but it needs to be counterbalanced. And like the women are the home of the family. The woman is the one that leads the family. And then everything else surrounds that. And it's like that protector, provider part of the masculine. And he conducts her in a way that helps to support the home even more. So it's all of these very ancient rituals of how we should be birthing. And it comes down to like, what are our own principles as people? Like, how do we treat each other? How do we treat ourselves? How do we treat each other? How do you treat somebody? How do you treat someone who just got jabbed and you didn't? Are you going to treat them like crap? Or are you going to treat them and be like, it's okay, I'm here for you. I'm angry, but I understand why you did it, but I'm still angry. I'm allowed to be angry. Why can't I be angry about what's happening? Am I not allowed to feel emotions? I'm not allowed to be upset. I have to just sit there with my mask on and be compliant. No, I'm not a compliant person. I've never been compliant. I'm not compliant. My mother, bless that woman, how she raised me. I saw her yesterday and I looked at her and I'm like, I love you so much because I put you through the ringer, but I needed to because I wouldn't be this person doing the work for other people if I didn't go through it. And I like to think that my community is growing. Affiliated with a lot of different organizations, like a lot of very strong individuals in the birthing community as well. So I find, whenever you need to do something, like social media is a great way to put it up, right? Like looking for this, like want to get in touch with more women who've had these experiences in their birth. Like now my latest thing is I want to know, were you traumatized at your birth? I want to hear your story. Like what happened to you? What did they tell you that they needed to make themselves look at all the writing that they wrote to make themselves feel better? What is it that happened? So that's the community aspect for me, is like just getting people in group chats and letting them figure it out. And then leading in some part that too, where it's like I'm having workshops and I'm having this, or if someone's responding and they're panicking, we're all responding too. Like my doula group chat, sometimes 3 a.m, someone's texting, hey, help, I need something. Someone gets up like, yeah, what's up? I'm at an overnight. What's going on? Oh, this mother is doing this and like this. What do I do here? And it's like, okay, give me a call. I'll call you right away. And so this is like what we've had to create because I was completely ostracized out of all the companies. Like I talk about Toronto Yoga Mamas, they fired me. West End Mamas got fired because I didn't take an experimental jab. The womb, I quit on them after they told me that I wasn't allowed to talk about what's happening to mothers online and telling me that I'm not allowed to have my own business and that I should give them my clients. West End Mama. So these are like the main foundation organizations in the city that made me quiet. And the thing is, I'm coming from a very different demographic. Like I am not a Caucasian woman. I'm an Indian woman. I'm an immigrant. And I support a lot of community women who do not have English as their first language, who are immigrants. And I even count Italian, Greek, all of these are immigrants. I'm not talking about the local generations of Canadians coming here. I'm talking about like most of my clients are immigrant clients. And so if those women are being silenced, then you're telling me that this is a form of racism now, because you're silencing women who already have like high mortality rates of births, such as Black women and women of color have the highest rates of death and abuse in the system. And you're telling me that I'm not allowed to speak about this? This is disgusting. And so it really drove me. The minute I got fired from those places, it just drove me. Like the Instagram shutting down, it just drove me into like another, like, I'm getting crazier. Like now I got to do even more shit. I got to report more people.
Yes.
So I came up with all these reports I have of people. I'm like, now I have more. It's just like every time you take something away from me, I create something more. You can't take anything from me because I know who I am. You can shut down all of my accounts. I will make 40,000 more. I don't care. I have time. I'm a birth doula and I'm single. I have no children. I have a dog. I have time. So that's at least where I've had to be, and my community 100% supports that. And my community is really strong. We're a fierce group of women that you wouldn't want to fuck with on a daily basis because we really care about what we're doing. And I think of us as like those old witches that were burnt back in the day. Like, we are those old witches and we ain't getting burnt now. We are like there and we will proudly say what we have to. And I think it also comes down to like what people are ready to hear, right? Not everyone's ready to hear the truth, and I understand that. But if we don't talk about it, then when is it ever going to be talked about? When are we going to talk about the trauma? When you're feeling better? You're never going to feel better unless we talk about it.
So when you worked in the hospital, because that's where you started with, right? Mm-hmm. When you just became a doula, the first thing was working in the hospital. And that's where you've seen all these crazy problems come up.
Mostly, yep.
Did you ever speak to any doctors or medical professionals and say, hey, this is wrong?
So when you're doing doula training, they tell you you're not allowed to speak to the healthcare providers. This is part of the training.
Okay.
So we were never directly allowed to speak to the healthcare provider. Maybe the nurse, because the nurse is what you would be. The doctor would just come in to pick up the paycheck at the end, right?
Right.
Pick up the, oh, yeah, you're 10 centimeters. Let's go. Let's push. Okay, collecting my paycheck. Bye. That's how they are, right?
Yeah, they're
so
quick.
They're very quick. So it's the nurses that you would develop relationships. So, as a new doula, you wouldn't say anything because you're not a medical expert. You don't have medical. And it's like, well, I have a vagina and I have a womb and that does it. So why wouldn't I know about something that is my divine right as a woman? So you never would talk to these people. You would be so scared, intimidated. You just wanted to be there for the mother. And looking for the information as an early doula, no one was talking about vitamin K. No one was talking about all this stuff. No one was talking about the things that was happening because no one wanted to talk about it. So you're going into the deep end and you're discovering it and you're looking at your fellow doulas who've had 8 years of experience more than you and you're wondering, why the fuck aren't they talking about this stuff? And it takes, I think some women were doing their part, but still, you really need to keep on going. And I feel like because I don't have any children, it made me concentrate more. Like it made me more focused because I'm only have to care about myself. Mm-hmm. So the only first time I started speaking to the doctors was the last birth I went to. And that was the last hospital birth that I had gone to after, I think, almost a year and a half. Because I refused to go to a hospital. Plus, they vaccine mandates and all that stuff. And I just couldn't go and it wouldn't be possible and all that stuff. No, so I went to one birth in December in Hamilton. And this one was the last one. It was a friend of mine and I said I would go. And she even said at the end, she's like, I should have done a home birth. I'm like, it's okay. Now we know. We learn these things so we know. And I remember the doctor came in and he said, okay, we got to speed this up right now. We got to speed it up. We got to break your water and start Pitocin. And my client just froze. And I know she's very vocal and she's just like, so why do we have to speed it up? And he's like, oh, well, we have to get things going. Like we got to make it faster. And then I said to him, I'm like, so you're telling me that you want to break the water to give Pitocin to make it go faster. Pitocin is a synthetic oxytocin that helps your contractions come in. Remember, it's synthetic. It's not real. So overuse of Pitocin can cause postpartum hemorrhaging. It can cause fetal distress. It can lead to C-section because your uterus gets too tired because you're using synthetic drugs. And remember, in a hospital environment, it's very normal for your contractions to slow down because it's not a natural environment. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone has their beeping machines on. It looks like you're in a prison cell with a bed in there. It's not like there's beautiful messages of, you can do this, birth your baby like water. No, it's more like, here are the instructions for resuscitation. Please press 1 for resuscitation. So you're walking around, you're in this
that's the kind of environment
room.
You want to be in.
Yeah, to birth your child. And for me now, after like all of this, I'm so public on Instagram, like I'm shitting myself. Someone's going to recognize me in Sunnybrook Hospital. But I'm like, wait, I have a mask on, whatever. So, you're walking with a mask on. No one knows who you are, but they've written your name down. I think the midwife or the doctor or the nurse, I think knew something, but didn't really catch on. They're in their own world there. Like they're in a different program altogether. And I said to the doctor, I said, so you're telling me that's going to make it go faster? And he's saying, well, you should be very mindful that you're a doula and you're not a medical professional and you're here to support the mother's emotional needs. I'm like, you fucking arrogant prick. What the fuck are you doing here?
You're also there to not necessarily advocate for her, but advocate so that she has a voice and can make the decision herself.
Yeah.
You ask the questions that she's like too timid to ask so that she can make the decision herself.
Totally. And I figured, you know what? This was a moment where I'm like, if this guy fucks up her birth, it's going to be on me for why I spoke. And so I remember there was a nurse there and they were checking the baby with the fetal monitoring. Because when you're in the hospital, like once you've taken drugs, like you have to get Dopplered. Like there's no fucking way out of this. Because baby could die in there with taking fentanyl, right? Like this is fentanyl. It doesn't go to the baby. Okay, this is bullshit. Thank you for living in your delusion. It can go to your baby because everything can cross to your baby. That's why babies come out more loopy after epidural. It's common like knowledge. And so this nurse was like, oh, let's find this little troublemaker here. What a little troublemaker here. And I was like, trouble fucking maker. I'm like, you fucking assholes put her through this position. Her baby was fine until you started scaring her. And I literally said to her, I'm like, can we please not use that language here? Can we please not use troublemaker? And she's like, well, I'm just making a comment. I'm like, so troublemaker is the words that you use of empowerment to a new mother who doesn't want to be here right now. Wonderful job, nurse. wonderful job. I was just so sarcastic. And I think I was also like, I was so tired. I was there for 14 hours at this point. I was so tired. You know, in a hospital for 14 hours is a long time. And she says, oh, I was just trying to make conversation. I'm like, let's talk about positivity. How about this? You and your team do not talk about this baby as of a troublemaker. They're stubborn. They're anything else that you want to say. If you want to say that, please bring another team member. But if you can't do your job to competency and respect this woman and be trauma informed to this woman's care right now, then you shouldn't be here. I think she was so fucking caught off guard. No one had ever fucking said that to her before in her life. She said, I'm really sorry. I'm like, no, it's okay. Be sorry, but do better. That's all I'm asking for today. Because I'm thinking this woman is about to go into a C-section if her baby doesn't come out. This is my thought process every time I go into a hospital birth. Mm-hmm. C-section is possible. It's 50% possible, actually, at this point. So that was the last time I went to the hospital. And it just made me realize, even with me being so vocal and verbal, she still had things done to her. You know, things still happened. And I just think about all the women who couldn't, all the doulas who aren't vocal and verbal enough, all the people who aren't. And this is like, you know, you're getting episiotomies, you're getting forceps, vacuum. Anybody who's planning a birth with an OHIP regulated professional needs to plan for a C-section because it is possible. If you don't know enough about birth and you're not hiring the right people, they will tell you get induced and cascade of interventions will result in a C-section, most likely. And people are not top with this knowledge. Like, oh, I'll just get my epidural and I'll just lay there. Oh my God, wouldn't life just be fucking amazing like that? If you just get your epidural and you just lay there. No, this can be more of a problem now because you're not moving around enough. And if your baby gets too tired and they need more drugs and it doesn't work out, then the only possible choice is a C-section. And if you don't know how to fight for yourself hard enough, you're getting one. So birth has been taken over since, especially midwifery. Midwifery has been taken over since they legalized, not legalized, but like registered midwifery into the Ontario system. Before it was just a bunch of hippie herbalists and it was an unregulated profession. And yeah, there are good things with the regulation, but from what I've seen, there is no more physiological birth. Undisturbed birth is out the window. There is no physiological birth. Women are not having physiological births. You plan a home with a midwife. You're just lying to yourself. Get a doula. And prepare yourself to only call her at the end because you need to be able to do that mostly without her. And if you're scared about your baby, you need to have some deep therapy work you need to work with because that fear ain't going. It's coming every single moment you have a contraction over and over. And when you want to give up, like if someone says, I want to go to the hospital, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not here to tell you not to go to a hospital. I'm here to help you have a birth in the way that you want to outside the system, in a way that's safe and informative. We do no medical interventions. I'm just there as your witness. I will pat your back. I will give you some food. I will prepare you for as much as I need to. I'll prepare your husband for all the medical emergencies that he needs to as best as can. He can go and do CPR classes. I encourage everyone to know CPR. But birthing is a basic tool. The convenience store should know how to help you with a breech birth. Like, this is a delusion that people think they shouldn't know how, because if this is the only thing that's been consistent for 10,000 years, why don't we all know how to do it?
Exactly. It's a fantastic question.
If we all know how to have sex, why don't we know how to do what the opposite end of sex happens in there? It's not people are not ready for responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of babies are coming in without really thought consciousness, right? So I think conscious conception is very important. Conscious pregnancy, conscious parenting, conscious birthing, conscious everything. We have to be very mindful of all of this stuff. It's not to say, oh, I'm conscious. Yeah, okay, great. Let's see you implement those steps now. Everyone knows what to do. Oh, I know it, but are they doing it? No. Do you understand it? Or are you understanding it? You're going under it, not going in it, you know? So these words are tricky here. This planet is very tricky. Everything is opposite here. A lot of opposites. And, students, their minds are so open to receiving, just like a pregnant woman. And if you're not putting in the right information into them and helping them to give them the tools to prepare them for life, you're going to get your ass handed to you. And that's what happened to me. I got my ass handed to me. I didn't have the tools to prepare myself on what it's like to not throw yourself on a man and to practice safe sex and to feel love and to talk about your emotions with your parents. And that's why I got what I had coming to me. And I had to go through my 10, 12 years of like going through the brunt of it for me to finally realize everything is a choice. I choose to react.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. So after realizing what's going on in the medical industry and actually starting to speak out about this online, you got censored. So tell us about that.
So I was getting a lot of censorship from the midwives because I was talking about women should have more rights, talking about the midwifery standards of practices and kind of openly putting posts about them. Like midwifery standard of practice number 5. Physically and emotionally abusing a client is against the standard of practice. Just letting you know. Here you go. Bye. So, FYI, here you go. Next post. 300 likes. Great. Save. 40 saves. Wonderful. So these are the things that I was teaching women, which is all online. Everyone loves to Google. Go Google it. They didn't like that. I was advising my clients things about their human rights laws and their legal rights. Finding real information from people like Sarah Wickham and Rachel Reed and Wapio and the Matrona and like Billy Harrigan, real evidence-based research on the statistics that they're deeming that they're safe and they're not. And then my latest post was on circumcision, and that really triggered, I'm pretty sure 50% of my followers. Because someone has either been circumcised, has been part of the circumcision, or has witnessed it and probably thought it was okay because it's like, oh, it's just what we do. Like we just circumcise and celebrate it. So we just gently mutilate a baby and it's like totally normal. We give a baby a surgery and it's like totally fucking normal. And so that was the post that I had on, and then I took it off for a few weeks. And then I met my mentor and she kind of instigated me a little bit more. And, sometimes when we get together, we get so frustrated and she's like, yeah, you should post it. It's great. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to post it. And so I reposted this circumcision video, and it was a very PG video. I didn't say anything. Like I didn't call anyone specifically anything. I just said, we are all following things that have been told by us, by other people. We need to start looking at why we're doing these things. Because I think it's like, if you were being a child abused your whole life, and then your sister was being abused and your mother's being abused, and now you're abusing your kid, and now your kid grows up learning how to abuse their kid. When is the right time to stop the abuse? Until when? Someone's dead? Someone dies of a surgery?
It's a little bit late.
Yeah. And so I was just bringing awareness to it because the things that and the reason that post started was because I was learning about Cervidil. And Cervidil is a gel that induces women into labor. It's like another medical intervention. And what I was learning about that, which is so hard to find, so hard. Oof, wow, they've really done a good one on this one. Is it used to be made from boar semen. So they took pig semen, made it into this gel, induced women with pig semen. And I just like lost it. I just like full trigger in my head. I'm like, oh my God, we're being fucked by pigs. We're being fucked by pigs. And I just went into like this
So this gel contains pig semen. That's what it's made up of?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Now they say, oh no, it's natural prostaglandins. I'm like, bullshit. Because I printed it out. I remember I actually screenshot this link. I put the link up on my story. I linked all this information. And no one ever messaged me back once I started posting all that stuff. But I obviously triggered a lot of people. And because there's cultural relationships to it, there's religious implications to it, there's trauma bonding to the experience. And I was just like fed up. I was like, how much more can we take? How much more can this child? Why are only men being cut? Why are men being subjugated to sexual abuse so early and pedophilic culture so early? And then on top of that, what happens is because you desensitize the man by removing his foreskin, you then allow the woman, if he's having sex with a woman, I'm talking about heterosexual couples here right now. It's just like, just to make it easier for you to understand my work specifically. I have nothing against same-sex relationships. It's just when it's two women, it's a bit different, right? I've never worked with same-sex men couples. I've only mostly worked with either female gender or heterosexual couples. And so what happens is once you start cutting these boys when they grow up, they don't feel as much because obviously now they're desensitized to that area. So sex becomes more violent because you need more to get off, right? So who is getting raped and traumatized at that point? The women. So the women are going into their sexual relationships being, choke fucked, bondaged, whatever else you can think about. I'm going to put you against the thing. I'm going to choke you until it feels like you're going to pass out. Then she's going, yeah, I love it. Oh yeah, do that to me because I watched 50 Shades of Grey and some nasty porn that I watched on YouPorn yesterday. So yeah, let's do it. And then what happens is the woman at the end of it feels like, yeah, that was great. I loved it. I didn't really like that much, but fuck it. Like that's what it is. Like I love him. How could I do that to him? And then again, the trauma bond starts. So this is one aspect to the circumcision. If you don't know how to clean your penis, you shouldn't be having children. That's my other stance on it. Oh, it's clean. Can't you clean your dick? How are you not learning how to clean your penis? You don't know how to clean your son's penis. This is a big problem. Why are you having kids? Why are you having kids if you don't know how to clean your penis? These are the fundamentals of life. You don't know how to pull it down and clean it. This is something like all women bleed. They know how to take care of themselves. So why are we saying that men don't need to this? So there's a lot, and like the real original roots of circumcision is like, the history is so distorted. It's not even real. It's like there was a story of this man back in history. I'll have to post you the link for this. And because he, in the war, he got his penis cut off or his dick came off, he needed to feel masculine against all the men. So they all got circumcised. So instead of circumcision being like, you have to cut the top part of that where the border is of the penis, it would just be the tip. But what's happened is they've cut the whole thing. So the history of circumcision is wrong because technically it's only the end of it. The little end of piece of it, like where the skin is, if anybody's ever seen uncircumcised penis, the skin at the end. I have to describe this. I sound like a sex slut. I sound like a sexual deviant, but my whole life is about sex because it's about birth, right?
Yes.
So they would just cut that off, but now they've cut the whole thing off. So then there is no sensitivity. So that's when you have to squeeze more and hold more, and then it needs to get more rough and it needs to get more violent. And you need to think about, I'm going to think my wife and she's shoving this dick in her mouth, and then there's something going up her butt, and then it's like, oh, now I can feel it. And it's because it's become so distorted with all the things that you can experience on porn to see uncircumcised penises constantly raping women over and over and over again. So this is what, I'm sure people listening, they're like, she's fucking stupid. What an idiot. Oh my God, she's so, how is she even saying that? No. I can say that. I've had enough sexual partners to know exactly what that feels like. And I've seen enough circumcised penises. I've cleaned enough circumcised penises to know that is wrong. And anybody who feels the need to do it, I recommend for you to go watch a video and go and take your child, and do not ask your wife to go and do it for you. Go and do it yourself and watch how they do it and how everyone is so normal about it. Oh, I'm going to cut their penis off today. It's a wonderful day. $500, please. Thank you. And they just cut it and walk away. And they think the babies don't feel anything. They feel the most, damn it. They feel the most. They're babies. They feel the most. They just don't say, hey, I'm feeling it. They just cry, and the trauma is already in the baby already. It's already started. So it's an attack against masculinity. It's an attack against femininity. I don't hate men. I love men. I wouldn't be here without a man. I wouldn't be in my prime without my divine masculine counterpart. But I see the attack that's happening on masculinity with the we can go on forever about this, right? I could go on forever. But in this specific way, the circumcision post, I'm pretty sure, triggered a fuck ton of people. And good. It obviously worked. I know I'm right. Thank you for confirming 6,000 followers later that I am right. Right? You've just confirmed it. And the thing is, the people who actually participated in the circumcision, they followed me back on Instagram because they know it's right. They know I'm right. But because there's cultural implications and there's religious implications and so complicated because these dynamics, these ancestral dynamics are so strong, and families are fucking hard. And you're part of a community, you get ostracized from it. No one wants to be ostracized from the community, right? There's even a dick community, circumcised dick community. Apparently everyone's whipping out their penis with grandpa on Thanksgiving dinner. That's obviously what's happening. That's why everyone needs to constantly circumcise, right? But it's just, I'm very raw and unfiltered. And that's how I've had to become for me to navigate this reality, because I just don't have time. I'm very compassionate. I'm very nurturing, very loving. But when it comes to things like this, I know who I am. I know what's right and wrong. And yes, there are medical reasons people circumcise, and there are very reasons. But if you're doing it because someone told you to do it because his dad got circumcised, you're not living. This is not an excuse. You are not actually thinking. This is cognitive dissonance, right? Completely. So it filters into so many lives, and I think that was the one that my stepson was like, you're doing too much now. You got to just take a break. They disabled you for a little bit. They put you in timeout jail. It's okay. You'll come back. Just relax a little bit. He's 18. He's young. He's like, you're just too much with the circumcision. And I'm like, I have to. He's like, I get it. I'm like, Jay, they're killing babies. They're hurting babies. And he's like, I get it. I'm like, you're going to be a father one day. How are you going to tell people? How are you going to tell your kids that that's okay? It's not okay. So I think for me, at least in my family, I'm doing my part to show that for my son. For my stepson, and his mom is very strong. She's in Brazil right now, and his mom is the epitome of alpha woman. She's Brazilian, she's tattooed, she's a kettlebell champion. She's fucking awesome.
Kettlebell champion.
Yeah, she's kettlebell champion, yogi, Brazilian, fully tattooed, necked, arms down, and just so just knows
badass.
She's just a badass woman, and that's where I learned how to be badass from strong ass women who are unapologetically truthful for who they are and what they've come here on this earth to do. And for me, my role is to literally push you to your boundaries and to know that you are not alone in that, and that, you know, like someone really, like, I love you. Like, I wouldn't be doing this work, putting myself out there, getting called whatever, being told I'm not a good person if I didn't give a shit. Like, that's when you know you're making a difference. Right? So definitely 6,000 followers being censored from that was, I mean, I definitely mourned it. Like, I cried like a little baby. I will be honest. I cried for probably 30 hours. And it was more because of the followers. And it was more because I had such good content on there and I didn't save it like an idiot. Half of it on Facebook, my good videos, like the 24,000 videos, which maybe it doesn't need to be put on now. People know who I am. If you saw it, you saw it. If you didn't, then that's okay. I will say it to your face. I don't need a video. I'll have no problem with a video, just more emotions. So you're crying in the video. It's very emotional, you know? You're like, oh my God, I'm crying with her. It's like, it's this whole thing and it's so in the moment. But now it's just, you know, using social media in a more tactful way, right? And like, obviously I literally said anything I wanted. Like, you know, they even have disclaimers when you join Instagram. No one reads that. You can't say this, you can't say that. I said all of it. Like, I didn't care. Because I just was like, what is the point of this stupid platform if I can't even use it?
Yeah.
So I used it to my advantage. I got censored. Now I know. I'm still going to say the same stuff. I'm going to be a little more mindful of how and a little more tactful to not get censored so quickly. But whoever reported me, they're obviously still following me. You obviously really like me. And I hope I get to meet you in person one day. Because I think that it's important for us to be able to meet the people who are feeling uncomfortable around us, so then we can make peace with that, because I'm obviously showing something up in them that they're getting triggered by, and they're showing something up in me that I'm getting triggered by, which is like this silent the silent compliance. And because I'm not like that, and it's taken me so long to find my voice, I know how important it is for women to speak up for themselves, because you're basically the home of the entire planet. Without you, we're not coming in. No one is coming in without a woman, just so you know. Whatever you decide, a womb, you are not coming into this reality without it. Unless robots are doing it. I don't see it yet. For now, it's being left for at least this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you've been relentless at trying to tell the truth and trying to expose everything.
Yeah. You mentioned that COVID and the everything, you know, being shut down really was kind of a catalyst for you starting to speak out. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think those 3 years of silence starts to brew a voice in you, for sure. And I think you witness how quickly people turned on you very quickly. They got scared very quickly. They lived in fear right away. I get it. It's something that's new that people have never, I mean, the whole world in one moment was on the same page. I mean, they got us wearing a mask in 1 week. The world can change in a week. That's what it shows, right? With anything. So that time was, it was actually really nice. I had honestly, my most fruitful business year was when COVID started, because more people needed support. They weren't getting hospital support now because they only allowed one person or maybe no people at some point. Some people were doing home births now. The home birth scene started really big, started opening up more and more. And I would convince my clients, home birth all the way. Like, you can go to the hospital after, but home birth. And so I was working with some clients. They trusted me. It was great. And I started to see the censorship in the doula community, that working and going out and doing what you needed to do, people were hating on you and were being angry at you, and you're killing people and you're doing this and you're doing them. Like, oh my God, hello, victim mentality. Here we go. Someone has trauma work they need to deal with. So right away, you got to know about people really quickly and who you could trust and not trust. I started to see the medical system and what it was doing, because my clients, the ones that I couldn't go to their birth with, would come back and would be like ripped open apart down there, like cut open, babies pulled out, sutures, sutures being done, then sutures opening up. It was just like horrific what was going on down there. Some women are still, after a year and a half, are still having problems with sex. Wow. So it just made me realize the violence that was taking place on something that's so sacred. Like, why were these people saving them? And, you know, when you're not there at that moment, all you're hearing is their story, but their story is real because it happened to them. And the medical system denies it. And, you know, my first real big insight into the trauma was a client that I had just before the pandemic started. It was at Markham Stouffville. She reported her doctor actually against the medical system, against the College of Surgeons. Obviously didn't go anywhere. They spent 2 years running her down and lying about everything. I witnessed that entire birth. She was raped, fully raped in her birth. She's been very public about it. She's talked about it's an obstetric violence. And I actually told her, I said, I saw she had a C-section at the end of it and she was just a basket case. And I said, I'm like, what happened to you was wrong. I want you to know that. And she said, really? I'm like, that was fucking disgusting. And I'm like, I just want you to know that like, if you need anything, I can help you report. I'm always here for you. And, you know, at that point, postpartum, like you're checking with your clients, but they're not telling you what's going on, right? Because they feel so shameful about what happened. They had planned to birth and she let her fear get in and she knows it, you know? So that time for her was very transformative because she did Free Birth Society course. She was like, I need to find out why this happened to me. So she took her own, COVID was her own healing because she was not distracted with everybody. And that was for me, is I wasn't distracted with anybody. I just got to really hone in what was important to me. And that was like preserving and keeping mothers safe and not letting them be cut open for God's sake and not being medically ripped and raped. And more and more clients were having more and more issues, you know? And then I was lucky enough that I could go to some births. So then they would allow, I remember a year later, they allowed us to go to a birth and I went to a birth finally. I mean, one of my clients, this was, I think, July of 2021. And she had hired me so scared. She says, I went to Markham Stouffville. I had my first birth there and it was horrific. She would be talking to me, shaking, talking about it. Beautiful family, wonderful Italian, most gorgeous family ever, making cute, beautiful babies. And I remember talking to her and I remember meeting her for the first time and I was like, holy shit, like this woman has so much trauma. And I remember holding her hand and I'm like, okay, like what happened? And she told me everything. And I just remember crying with her and her husband just didn't even know what to say because sometimes guys don't know what to do. Like, can you blame them? Like they don't have a vagina. What the hell do they know about this stuff? Right? Like they just know something really bad and violating happening, but they're also trauma bonded to the hospital because it's looked at as a safe place for sick people who go in there. Remember, the hospital is for sick people. I want you to remember that. Sick people, sick. And so we go to her birth, second birth, her baby's breech. She's freaking out. 34 weeks, freaking out. She's like, my baby's breech, my baby's breech. And like, then I didn't know what I know now. And I'm like, breech baby is totally safe. You just need the right healthcare provider. But everyone here is an idiot and doesn't want to take a chance. So of course she's shitting herself because her OB is so fucking incompetent. And the rest of the system is so dumb that they've never even done breech babies. They do the trainings. Oh, I don't want to do it. It's not medically safe. So let's just cut open women and pull their babies out of them. Right? That's the solution. It's just cutting women open. That's the solution.
What is breech baby?
So a breech baby, there's different types of breech. There's transverse breech where your baby is like transverse, like your baby's like links on the side to side.
Not in the right position.
It's not, yeah. And that one, that's a pretty dangerous position because most likely if you can't turn the baby, you need a C-section for that one.
Right.
Because how is the baby coming out? Like it's not turning.
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen many breech babies flip right at the end when pushing happens. So, but no one takes those risks, right? Your midwife will already be instigating you to transfer to the hospital and like blah, 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 all this stuff. So they only look at women in a certain health scope of like, you're healthy, your baby is head down, you meet a certain ideal weight category, you've done all the testing, you've been very compliant, you're a healthy woman for a home birth of compliancy. This is what their role is, right? And so this woman, we ended up getting her baby turned. She ended up getting me on the Markham Stouffville guest list to go, no, not Markham Stouffville, sorry. It was Humber River, which is on kind of like Keele and Weston area. Horrible hospital. Just utterly horrible. I've had so many births there, just disgusting. That team is disgusting. I hope you all hear this. You guys are not doing a good job. No trauma-informed care whatsoever. And I remember this mother goes in and she's like so terrified. She, they check her right away. She wants to get checked. 7 centimeters. Oh my God, thank God. And now this is where the real fear comes because all the fear kicks in right here because this is where it happened all last time. And so I'm with her and I'm just like making it more exciting. I'm like talking with her, massaging her and all of that stuff. And I realized right there, I'm like, they're coming in every moment and saying, put your mask back up, put your mask back up, put your mask back to the mother. And she's like breathing, having contractions like this. I'm like ripping off that mask on. They're like, I'm like, she's not wearing the damn mask. She's not wearing the mask. Leave her alone. She's not wearing the mask. And she's breathing with me and I'm like, just hold me. And they're doing the epidural on her. She wants an epidural at this point. I'm like, and the husband's just standing there like just completely freaked out. I'm like, it's okay. Like his role is something different. And like, I don't want to push him to anything. Like I can obviously handle this. She lays back down. They say, put your hat back, put your mask back on. I'm like, oh, you fucking losers. I'm like, okay, let's put your fucking mask back on. Put your mask back on, lays back down. I'm massaging her. We're laughing. I'm asking them like, where did you guys meet? And that's usually a good story because everyone always has a good story with a man. She's like, he didn't even really want me. I had to pick him. And he's like, what do you mean? I met your mother in a grocery store. And it was like this full like story of like just them like harmonizing the experience to them because they went through so much first time birth trauma. And within 2-3 hours, she was ready to push just because she felt safe now that there was someone who was going to be witness to what she was going to go through. She had her baby like came out, no episiotomy, no nothing, everything. And I remember being in that experience and thinking, if she didn't put me on the list and say that if you don't put her there, I'm going to literally report all of you for birth trauma for what you did to me last time, I wouldn't have been there at that moment. And I remember meeting all the clients after who had to go there alone and hearing their horrific birth story. And my one client who didn't, because I was there, happened to be during COVID. And thinking like, so without me, this woman wouldn't have had a chance. Was that what I'm seeing? And that's when I just kind of was like, no. This can't be happening more and more. And so the more things that would happen, and like, I'm a bear. Like, I'm not a bear. I'm like, you poked the bear essentially. So I'm going to instigate a little bit. I'm going to make you get a little bit more, verbal with your client, with your midwife. I'm going to tell your midwife, hey, if you fucking threaten me, I'll free birth. That's their ultimate nightmare, is if you free birth your baby. If you say, if you push me, I will free birth this baby at home without you, they are shitting themselves. You're going to birth your baby without me? Yeah, my grandmother did it without anybody. But they don't believe that. They don't believe in this free birth system, which is everyone's choice on how they want to birth. Like, I'm still an attendant, so I still always attend the birth, and some women are more comfortable, but it is your right however you want to birth. And so that's the stuff I was telling my clients, like, you better write this letter and, write the letter, write whatever you want. What do you feel? Write it down. Let's edit it a little bit. Let's put some laws in here now. And you give these things to these clients and they literally are shitting themselves thinking, oh my God, my client has all my rights. She knows all her rights. I need to follow these rights. So up until I started looking at the legal system in Ontario, it's very difficult to really set boundaries in this province. Very difficult. And that time of those 3 years in COVID of sitting there and contemplating and crying after every birth and getting emotionally invested, and your partner's trying to pull you out and he's like, you're not going to survive in this business if you get attached to the outcome. And it wasn't the outcome. It was like that women weren't having a fair chance. They weren't having a chance. And he's like, they picked this. They picked it. And I was like, well, then I need to pick better clients then who want to have a birth that is better. I don't want to pick clients who are scared, because then I'm scared then for them. And so it slowly started to be about me speaking out. Then I would be shitting myself. Oh my God, I posted and West End Mamas is going to see it. And oh my God, I'm going to get fired. And that's what obviously was happening. And they would see it and they would comment on it and they would say things. And they're like, you're saying these posts that if they're against God, why would God make a mistake? But we can't say those things. I'm like, but if God wouldn't make a mistake, why are we doing these to these babies? And she couldn't tell me and no one could tell me. So whenever you bring God into it, I feel like people don't even know what to say. Because some people really do have a faith into God and no one will ever question your religion, but God forbid you question anything else that they fucking ask you to do with fingering yourself or injecting yourself or anything else. And so that's kind of when, things really took a turn where it was like, I refuse to participate in this anymore. But I will say, it didn't just go from like seeing all these trauma births to like only home births. It took me many steps for me to go back and forth, for me to get pushed by a community, yelled at by a community, told that I was a bad doula, that I'm endangering people, that I'm doing this, that I'm not a good person, to me crying, to not having any, and then me just realizing I don't fucking need any of you. I got myself, I got God, I got spirit. I'm like, if I can get myself out of anything, I definitely don't need you to make my business. And I had this ego part of me that came right in, or maybe it's my spirit, my higher self, and it just was like, we can fucking do it. You don't need anybody, right? And so that's kind of how it came to be. And I was doing therapy on the side for myself. I was doing plant medicine ceremonies. I was going into the depth of my own trauma because I needed to see why I was so scared to speak out. Why am I scared? Because I didn't know myself enough. And now I know myself and I really don't care what you have to say to me. Like, I don't care if you think I'm a bad person. That's on you. I can't change what you think about me. I know what I do in my life. I know what impact I make on my clients. I know that these women are crying to me after their birth, thinking how their birth is so different just because someone gave a shit about them. We're doing that. You're doing that, actually. I'm just showing you that this is what you can do. And so I never tell people I can do anything for you. No, you do that yourself. I'm just there to hold space for that vibration that you need. And that's very important. If someone's not holding your vibration, what are they doing there? If you're not comfortable to literally take a huge dump in front of somebody in their birth, what are they doing there? You should be so comfortable to take a poop in your husband's face at that point. If you're not comfortable and you're not comfortable to do that, then he should be in the room at that moment. Because you need to open. Everything is about undressing these emotions. Mm-hmm. And your body is about, when you feel safe and comfortable, that's when your baby comes. If your body is sensing danger, whether it's a lion running after you in your tent or like a midwife coercing you, it's the same stress hormones that are being released. It's the same feeling of fear, the lion or the midwife or the OB or whatever else it is.
Right. So when you stood up for these women, it's it worked. You had successful birth, right? And so this just goes to show that if you do speak out, if you do stand up to the system, and you do point out the wrong things, then everything turns out fine, you know.
I mean, for the most part, I hope it does.
Yeah.
There are definitely, I mean, like I said, it does. You have to expect there could be another side to it. Right. There could be women who don't like the outcomes and don't do this. And even though you told them everything, they still did it. And I just literally do what I feel like I just do whatever I'm supposed to do and be honest with my clients as much as I can. And I hope that they are going to make the best decision for them.
Yeah. Well, that's all you can do.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And at a home birth, it's definitely a lot easier. At a hospital, sometimes I'm just there to be with you. Mm-hmm. I'm just there to hold you through this experience and do the best I can. But like that client who I told you, the doctor told me that I'm just a doula. She was about to go for a C-section by herself. They rolled her in. They said, I can't go inside. They were really upset that I was speaking and helping her. And the doctor said, you don't need your doula. And she's like, I don't need you, actually.
Wow.
Nice.
And he's like, what? She's like, I don't need you. Like, I'm pushing my baby out. I'm not getting a C-section. And she pushed her baby out in 2 hours. And I've never seen someone roll into the OR and come out. And she said, when I talked to her weeks later, she said, I realized at that moment when you weren't coming in with me, I had only myself. And if I wasn't going to do it, no one else was going to fight for me. And so that's sometimes what it takes, right? It's like, I can't do the work for you. You have to do the work.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right?
People need to learn to stand up for themselves. And the guidance is absolutely amazing. And like, I mean, we give that whenever we can as well. And what we've been trying to do with CSANT. And it is up to the person at the end of the day. It's up to you yourself. No one can make you do anything. If you want to stand up against something, then you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring the horse to the water, you can't make it drink.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm like a broken record. I've said that so many times.
It's so applicable, right? And it's applicable in every part of life. And especially the last 3 years, it's really shifted. And it shifted everyone's like mental projection as well. And
no one wants to be responsible for anything. No one wants to make the decisions themselves. It's just handing off, just deferring to experts or other authorities or anyone but themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, you literally, it's your job to encourage people, and that's what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And it's still, I mean, exactly the expression you just used. It's so hard.
It's so hard.
It's so hard because we can't make you stand up for yourself. No. You just have to do it.
You have to do it. And I realize like, but the best thing to do is just keep on doing what you're supposed to do. And if your message is supposed to get out there, your message will get out there. And if you're meant to impact people, you will. Yeah. And like, I'm not for everybody. I'm not everyone's ideal doula. There's a lot of people who would never work with me. And I am fine with that. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be the best doula in the world. It doesn't fucking make a difference to me. It's about impacting the people in your community and supporting that. And if people want to hear, they'll be here to hear. If people don't want to hear, then goodbye. There's another 7 billion of us on this planet that you can go work with. Yes. You know? So it's hard to think that we can change the world. The change happens with self. And then you get to look and externalize that differently, right? Like the world didn't change. It's how I viewed the world that started to make things differently. So when I go into a room, I'm super fucking confident. I know what I'm doing. When the midwives come in, they're intimidated. Great, right. I'm doing my job, right? I don't even acknowledge them because I'm not here for you. I'm here for her. Mm-hmm. What you do is your business, but I'm watching you and I will damn well take a picture of you if you fucking do anything. So nowadays with the age of cameras and recording, like every midwife and doctor should be on their best fucking behavior. Because I could wear a camera as a dot on my forehead and say that it's religious Indian culture, but really it's a camera at this point. Right? So like that's, if I go to any birth, like I took pictures at this one birth and I have all this evidence for this reporting thing that I did. And they were like shitting themselves. I took a picture and I sent it. And I'm like, this is all the picture evidence that I got.
So they consciously know that they're doing this wrong.
They don't know that they think that they're doing things right. They're not informed about what they're doing to women. They think that they're saving women. And yes, sometimes they are.
Yet they're afraid of the reporting.
They're afraid of the reporting and they're afraid to do anything else, to take risks on women. And not everybody is fitting in a regular category. Like people come with all kinds of things, all kinds of problems, all kinds of ancestral DNA lineages, and it doesn't mean that we're like this one book of like this one Caucasian woman from the 1880s and that's how all women are. Like my race of women are very different how they birth than other people's race, you know, and nothing is taken into account. It's like a standard of practice. You're all the same robots and we give you all the same care, right? So unless you can become Neo and take the red pill, it's going to be very hard for you. You will be a very good robot inside the world, and Smith will be your bitch in all of that. But people, like, these movies are so powerful because they're literally telling you the truth, embedded with some lies for sure, but they're there to help you see that you are more than you could ever imagine. You just don't know it yet. But, you know, people like me are here to remind you of that. That's why I feel like I'm on this earth. Like, to do this work, it's a calling, but it's like, it's not easy work. This is like really tough. I don't sleep most days. I'm on call all the time. You know, my Instagram might look pretty, but fuck me, man. I think about that shit all day. I'm thinking, oh God, what post, what color, how do I make this look pretty? How do I make it look like I'm birthy yet spiritual yet a badass? Like, I don't know how to, you know, it's like all these little things. I'm like, I don't even care. What a combination. I'm like, I didn't care. No, I can't do this. I can't do this. So it's an extreme responsibility to be here and to help navigate these souls and beings, because there's a reason I haven't had kids, and because I don't feel compelled to bringing children in, because I feel like there's more work to help here. I'm here to help. Mm-hmm. You know, and
it's your mission.
It's my mission, and I've always wanted. It's what I've always wanted to do. So I didn't become a doctor. Great, best decision of my life. But I decided to do this, and nothing wrong with doctors. I think the work that they do, the amount of hours that they put in, my God, like I couldn't even make it. I could not make it at all. It comes with a very different type of dedication. But I think if I went into med school now, it would have been way different than if I was 18. I would have been more strong about who I was and structured. Obviously, now I can't go back in because you need every single jab possible to go back in. But had things been a little bit different and I had known this knowledge a bit more, but I didn't. I was 18. So now I know, and now I can make the difference and make the change, and I can do things differently. There's not just one way to help somebody. 1,000 different ways, you know? And you can have a business and anything. People are worried about money. You can have if you love what you do. I love what I do, Like, I love it to the next degree where I'm literally getting censored. That's how much I love it. So I feel like if you really love what you do, you can make it. But you have to have proper rituals and implications and mindset. And, you know, unfortunately, we need money in this world. And you need to have some sort of income to make your dreams come true. It doesn't work. Oh, I'm going to think about it. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to have energy to make energy. You need current to make current. You know, and these are the things that I had to learn after, when I was becoming this psychedelic hippie, which was like, oh my God, like love, peace, namaste. And it's like, okay, it is that, but it's also like standing your fucking ground and your boundaries, and knowing that sometimes you got to put a little effort in to make big things happen. You got to put work through your life. It's not enough to say, oh, I don't want to put work in because I don't believe in the work. And it's like, okay, these are just your new age thinking right now, but you can literally do anything you set your mind to, right? Mm-hmm. But what are your belief systems? What are your restrictions? What are your mind constructs? How do you govern your life? How do you take care of yourself? You know, and I encourage anybody, if they're ever feeling down about themselves or anxiety, or they don't know who they are, go into a gym and pump some weights. You will get to learn a lot about yourself when you work out, and you see what exactly you're made from. Like, this here, their basic fundamentals is like, the time that I was getting healthier, it was like I think 80 kilos, third year med school, fat as fuck, eating Chinese food every morning, eating Snickers for breakfast, chocolate milk, and then I go to have Chinese food at lunch, because, you know, you're a med student, you think you're invincible. Obviously, that's obvious. Like, so you think that because you're a med student, you're like obligated from disease, apparently. Like, no, it doesn't happen. That's the worst in there. And I remember I was like, I need to lose this weight. I feel this baggage. And I remember I lost like 25 kilos in 1 year.
Wow.
Healthiest way? No, but I still did it. And I remember just thinking like, this is where I feel better. Now I can focus. My body feels good. Now I can think more clearly. But when your body doesn't feel good and you're not feeling good, you can't regulate any dopamine in your brain to take control and to listen to people who empower you. Like, I recommend all young men to follow like David Goggins. Like, that man is a fucking warrior. That guy keeps on running and taking videos, and he's like, y'all have chestnut syndrome. Like, we need hard man, like, rites of passage in their own way. And then other types of men like Gabor Mate and like, you know, Osho, and like these kind of old gurus who were like gangsters of their time because they knew things and people just didn't want to hear them. So there's so much information that's being passed out. And people look who are the most authentic to themselves, who don't give a fuck about anything. That's when you know those are authentic people.
Yeah.
You know, not the ones who are people pleasing and crowd pleasing, because that's not going to get you very far. You know, you're living for other people most of the time.
So what message would you have to students that are 18 years old, they're going into university, their first year, and they're going to experience all these things? They're going to go through maybe even med school like you were. What message would you have for those people in terms of, you know, being able to speak up, or not being a people pleaser, or standing up to what's wrong by knowing that it's wrong and just being able to say something. Because not a lot of people have that sort of ability to do that. I mean, they probably do have the ability, but they don't have the courage to just, I'm just gonna leave this and somebody else will deal with it. Because that's kind of the theme that's going on in our generation.
Yeah,
is that not everybody's willing to stand up for things. But you clearly learned that throughout time, and you grew to become this person that you are today. So what message would you have to these people to be able to come out of the shell and be able to speak up for themselves?
Well, I think the hardest thing to do every day is do the thing that's you have to implement steps every day. You have to implement one thing in your life over and over and over again. So if it means something like where a friend is saying to you, let's go out drinking tonight, and you're like, no, I don't really want to go, but I feel like I have to go, just say no, I'm not going today. Maybe you'll go out. You're like, just go. Okay, I'll come. Oh, fuck, I made a mistake. I went out again. Okay, great. Try it again now. You have to keep on trying over and over. If you've never even said no once, how are you going to do it all those extra times? It took me multiple times for me to relearn something because I had to keep on getting faced with the same challenge over and over and over. So people have to be ready to take criticism. Enough of this pansy ass culture of, I can't take criticism. You need to take criticism. You need to. It's good for your ego. It's good to fall on your face. It's good to fail. It's good to cry. It's good to feel angry. It's good to feel sad. It's good to feel happy. You need to feel these things, because if you're not ready to fall in life, you got another fucking thing coming for you. And life is cruel. It's mean. It's wonderful, but it will test you. And these are your foundation. This is your foundation. Starting university, I remember it was my foundation. I didn't have a good foundation, And your foundation means, who is your circle of friends that you surround yourself with? Are you interested in being with people who make you feel bad, who make you do things that you don't want to do, but you need to fit in? You have another thing it's coming for you. You don't even realize it. People like that don't make it very far, And it's a very important that I think young youth should be very much involved in community, very much should be exercising every day, and should be all getting therapy on the regular, whether it's once a year, once a month, once a year even is fine, but to really start getting in tune with what are the things that are making them feel uncomfortable. I wish I had therapy when I was 18. I didn't even know about those resources when I was 18. I thought you just had to be quiet and just become a doctor, and that's your therapy, right? You just become a doctor and it's over, right? No.
That's your therapy.
That's your therapy. You become a doctor, and that's the ego. I would go Mom, I'm going to be a doctor. Don't worry about it. They're like, oh, you're right. So I would definitely say surrounding yourself with good people is very important. If you don't have good friends, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to go up to them and be like, hey, I really like the book that you're reading. What is it? Blah, blah, blah. Strike up a conversation. Sometimes the hardest thing we do is we create this narrative in our head. It's not even real. We just made it up though. So just be really mindful of the narrative that you're creating in your head, because that tells a lot about a person. And it's okay to feel fear. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be all those things. It's if you weren't feeling that, you aren't on Earth. Earth is the harmonic scale of feelings. From the very, very low to the highest you've ever been on any substance you've ever taken. It is the harmonic scale of feelings. So I recommend students to just sometimes it's hard to say no, but you can make those silent wins by yourself by doing the work yourself. You don't have to go to a protest. You don't have to go on Instagram and tell them what you feel. I do that because I can do that. But you can make those silent wins for yourself at your own home, where it's I am going to go to the gym today. I am not going to eat that disgusting McDonald's burger because all my friends are eating it. I am going to go somewhere where it makes me feel uncomfortable because I need to get in touch with who I am inside. Doing the things that make you feel uncomfortable means that you're closer to who you are. If you're always in the comfort zone, you're never going to figure out who you are, and you will become part of the system, and they will make you part of them. And it is an extreme responsibility to be able to do that for yourself, and then to guide other people, whether you have siblings or friends or sisters, or you're a mentor in some sense. So I would think about, what is it that you want out of life? Figure out what kind of person you are and what you want to be and who you are, because you already are all of those things. You just need to get slowly acquainted with it. And I think life will always bring you the things that you need to learn from, right? Every relationship in your life is a lesson. Even your parents, even your friends, the teachers that you pick, the courses that you pick, all of that. It's all a lesson to grow into it more. And traveling. If you can travel now, that's going to open up your mind. The people who can't travel, I encourage you, go up to Collingwood. You can travel there. You can drive across to Alberta, seeing something different and being open to just not knowing everything, because you don't. You're in diapers just like the rest of us. I'm in diapers as well. You're in diapers. We're all in diapers here on Earth. You know, if we're on Earth, you haven't figured it out yet. That's why we're all here together. You know, that's the one thing that is completely 100%. I feel with my heart that if you're on Earth, it's because you've come here to go through your rites of passage and your lessons, so then you can do a better job if you come back in. And you come in with even more knowledge until you're ready to stop learning the damn lesson again. Right? But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if you're expecting change and you're waiting for somebody else, like, you're going to be waiting your whole fucking life. Your whole life you will be waiting. And if you don't take control of your birth or your life, for sure your parents will do it for you, because they feel like it's up to them to do it. So take some initiative, take some responsibility, you know, go and do something different, go and have an adventure. I was a loner. Like, even in university, I would just put my earpods or AirPods then, or earpods, whatever they call them, earplugs in my ear, headphones in my ear. Wow. And I would just take strolls through the city, and I would just get lost. And I was like, I just need to walk. I need to think about it. And the more you can just do that and not be surrounded by all this fluff of Instagram and TikTok, that shit isn't even real. Like, everyone's putting their best face on that stuff. Even me, I'm putting my best face on that stuff. So then you like me, competent enough to trust me with your baby and your birth. But the real stuff is your character and how you treat other people, and how you treat your family is a big part. You know, how do you treat your mother? Do you even call your mother? Do you call your dad? No? Hey, Mom, I love you. Thank you for bringing me in. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for taking care of me. Are you doing that? No. These are the basics of life. So it won't really matter all the things that you have planned. It's about the compassion you have for your initial immediate circle, and build on that. And you don't need anybody but yourself. You know, that's what people need to realize. And then, yes, when you're more whole with yourself, you will bring in a partner. But if you're busy being in fear and angry at everything, what do you think you're going to draw in? You're going to bring in whatever that you're made of. So be willing to take a chance and a risk on yourself. Be willing to not know everything. Be willing to fail and fall. Be willing to rise above the bullshit. Be willing to, know that everything's going to be okay. Everything is exactly the way it needs to be. Even this whole thing right now, it's exactly the way it needs to be for everyone to individually come to their own truth. This wouldn't be happening to all of us if we didn't need it, right? We definitely all needed to wake up. I needed to wake up, clearly. Yeah. So it's just another cycle for you to just evolve better,
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here, and you've inspired so many people. So we hope that you keep doing that. You never stop.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm inspired. I've learned so much today.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been really grateful. I'm really honored, and thank you for taking time on your day off today.
It wasn't really a day off for us. That wasn't in the plans.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Thank you.